looking for? No Frankenstein?
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it.
Faravelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now, I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Are we on the air?
Yes.
All right. Yay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your List Sucks Top 100 series. Hopefully, it'll happen again, or it's going to be a really long night. My name is Kirk Olkowski. I am your guide through this journey of mostly terrible movies that these people have chosen as their top 100. Tonight, we're going to be getting through the end of the bottom half of their list, the 50s, the nifty 50s, as it were. Scott, last week you had a pretty dominant win. Do we have any chance of things being that good ever again?
Probably not quite that good. Like I said last week, I think that was the week I was like, yeah, I pretty much got this one in the bag. I do think I have another good week tonight. I think after this is where it will start to even out a little bit because it's weirdly like my very favorite movies are the ones that Kirk has strong feelings about and not of the good variety. But I think I'm safe tonight, but we'll see.
All right, we'll see what happens. Spence came in second again last week. You're hanging in there. You're hanging. Oh, Rue, was it Rue?
I came in last week. I'm pretty sure.
Was it? I don't know. I don't remember week to week. It's all blur. Rue, you came in second last week, and that was your highest finish so far. You're working your way up. How you feel about this week? You gonna get over the hump? You gonna take first this week?
Maybe one half my attention is on the fact that I can't watch the Knicks live right now. So I'm kind of there. But second, I will tell you from here on out, I objectively think that the rest of my movies are actually like fairly good. This is the one this week I say is the best objectively, I think, in your opinion, of all mine, and the weakest going forward. Maybe only 1 or 2 movies you may disagree with me this week. So I'm feeling good from here on out.
All right. Spence, just tell me where you finished last week. Was it?
I think I finished last because I said some mean things about Goodfellas.
That's true. As you deserve to finish when you say bad things about Goodfellas. How you felt about it this week?
I'm in danger.
I will say, I wore my nice pretentious professor's jacket because I think I might win this week, which means I'm going to get last again. But the confidence is there.
We'll see. And finally, Jake. It's been interesting so far. What's this week? How's this week going to pan out for us?
I'm really. This is like my weirdest week, probably. I'm hoping that Spence and Rouge shit the bed somehow. That's my best.
We will be last. Let's go.
I feel very strongly, so I don't know.
I've been coasting on everyone else's failures this whole time. So.
Scott, right. By default most weeks.
2 greatest words in the English language, default. Well, let's go, Scott. We're gonna start out with our bottom 3 for everybody. Again, we're still on regular Your List Sucks rules, so just shoot me for this beginning part. Scott, give me your 60 through 58.
Okay, my number 60 is the Alexander Payne film Nebraska. My 59, The Fugitive. And my 58 is It Follows.
All right, you can talk about all 3 movies. I don't think that's happened yet.
I know. I've had a lot of yikes in mine. But Nebraska is my number 60. This is just like one of the most underrated movies of the 2010s for me. I think this movie was marketed pretty poorly, honestly. The trailers kind of made it look like, here's this depressing old black and white movie about an old guy who, is losing his marbles. And honestly, that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, of course, the movie does reckon with old age and what comes with that, and it is melancholic at times, but it's also very funny, like very funny. The stuff with Bruce Dern's family, just like the way that all those characters are portrayed, and the way that all the men are like sitting around the TV and just like don't say anything to each other, or they're yelling across the room, like, "You still got that truck? What?" Yeah, hilarious conversations. And then June Squibb as like the mother character has, that one amazing scene where she's in the cemetery, and it's just like roasting all of the dead people. It's very funny. And honestly, it has a good heart as well. At the very end, like, it leaves you on a surprising, like, about as uplifting of a note I think as a movie like this could end on. So I think it's very underrated. It's probably not the movie that you expect it to be. It's a lot more of a road movie than anything else, and all the performances are really good. Like, I think Will Forte and Bob Odenkirk, who play the sons, and obviously are more primarily comedic actors, show that they can really bring some dramatic chops. So highly recommend Nebraska. My 59, The Fugitive. Yeah, just a classic action movie. Again, another one of the 90s classics that tend to be my favorite era of action movie. Great cat and mouse game. It's another one of those, like Crimson Tide, where both guys are kind of, neither one is like totally right or totally wrong. I mean, I guess Harrison Ford is fighting for justice the whole time, but the point is, Tommy Lee Jones isn't set up as like the villain or anything. Like, he's also trying to get justice. It's just, he has the wrong idea about who the killer actually was. And when when it's revealed that it's not Harrison Ford, they're fighting alongside each other. So it's a great cat and mouse game where you kind of like both characters. And obviously, Harrison Ford brings that like intensity to it, that I didn't kill my wife. And then, Tommy Lee Jones is hamming it up in a way, but in a very effective way. With I don't care. I mean, that like famous scene is just kind of like very indicative of the way that both of their performances and characters are in the movie, and why the dynamic really works. The set pieces hold up really well, like the bus crash at the beginning of the movie. That's still some of like the best practical effects that you'll see in an action movie. So that in particular holds up really well. The St. Patrick's Day parade. It's just an exciting action movie with two, very well cast leads in it. So The Fugitive is great. And then my 58, It Follows. One of my favorite horror movies. One of my favorite theater experiences I had was like going to watch this movie with not really knowing that much about it, not even being a huge horror fan at the time, and just like being blown away, not just by I think the style of the film is so absorbing. Like, David Robert Mitchell is become one of my favorite directors between this and Under the Silver Lake, his last movie, and his work with Mike Gelakis, who's the cinematographer. Like, their widescreen cinematography, like, it's beautiful to look at. And you don't really think about calling many horror movies beautiful, but like, that's honestly how I would describe like the visual landscape and how lush it is of this movie. Yes, the music is amazing by Disaster Piece, like the synth heavy John Carpenter-y type score. And I just love, like, the premise of the movie is really interesting because it keeps you on edge the whole time, like scanning the screen, like, oh, is this person the one, following them? It's an interesting concept. There's a lot of nuance to it, I think, to unpack as well. When it came out, everyone was like, oh, this is an STD allegory, which is an oversimplification of what it's actually about. It's much more of like, I think it's about like the looming specter of coming of age, right? For these characters who are on the brink of coming of age. So I love this movie. I just rewatched it this week, kind of in preparation for this, and it still really holds up. I think it's one of the best horror movies of the 2010s for sure, and kind of almost in a way ushered in this era of like elevated horror that we've seen in the last few years really come to the forefront. So I love It Follows.
All right. Okay, start out with Nebraska. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I watched this, I think, because of Spence. I think I was prepping for a match against Spence. I watched this, and I really enjoyed this. I really, really like this. This is my kind of movie. I think Will Forte's really good in it, and I was surprised by him because, he's famous for kind of being a clown, and for him to take on this role that's not necessarily super dramatic, but isn't just a straight comedy role. He played that really well, just with like kind of like the innocence and like that vulnerability with his father, and then like the relationship with his extended family. And I love those scenes, like the scenes where his cousins just keep laughing at him because of how long it took him to drive. Because they said they would have made it like they would have drove like 200 miles an hour or whatever. Those characters are so great, all those side characters. And it just feels like a really lived in world. Like this family really feels like a family. You know, the places they go, the bar and the house feel like real places, and it looks great. That it has really great black and white cinematography, and curmudgeonly Bruce Dern is great. So yeah, that's a really solid movie. The Fugitive, I call this an Amaru pick. I'm surprised it didn't get yikes. This is a very Amaru pick. This is a Sunday afternoon cable pick. But yeah, this is it's a real solid movie, and yeah, that's my favorite part of it is the relationship between two characters. And I love a character like what Tommy Lee Jones is doing here, where it's like he just has a job. Like his job isn't to like get to the bottom of things or like to figure things out. His job is you were found guilty, you're a prisoner, I take you back, and that's all I care about. If anything else goes on, that's not my concern. And I just love that like kind of like zeroed in, hone and focus him. Yeah, it gives really great performance there. And I'm also a big It Follows fan. I love the tone and the timeless feel of this movie. I love how it has like that fall. It homages a lot of movies like Halloween and stuff, but it has that like that otherworldly feel to it. And I love the monster. I just love how the monster is like it's just a regular person. It's nothing inherently terrifying about it, but just it's constantly coming at you. And that's that scene where they're in the bedroom. That real tall guy comes out. Is one of the scariest shots, single shots. It's like it's not really a jump scare, but it has that effect. It's a really solid shot. So yeah, 3 really good picks to start us off, and now we're gonna go over to Spence for your 60 through 58.
We'll see if I actually talk for these. My 60 is Blade Runner 2049.
Yikes!
There
Future
it is.
Episode.
My number 59 is Little Shop of Horrors. There. My 58 is Mean Girls.
I had it earlier.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Oh, yep. So, you guys don't like musicals, right? Little no secret. This is a fucking banger of a film. This might actually, other than Disney, this might have been the first musical I ever watched. Because they're just growing up around a lot of theater people, just like, oh hey, this is a great movie, and it balances horror and comedy really well. On top of that, I think it has the impossible task of making maybe one of the most annoying singing voices put to film really engaging. I keep forgetting. I forget the lead girl's name, but she is incredible, even though she has like a very nasally, whiny voice. And I think that the fact they made that work is great. Steve Martin is incredible. Levi Stubbs as Audrey 2 is a highlight. Everyone's favorite thing about the film is always talking about how they needed to speed up the footage when Rick Moranis was performing opposite Audrey 2 because they needed to do the puppet in I'm tired. It's just a great film. Great musical, great everything about it. Bill Murray, great cameo. 58, Mean Girls. Y'all know Mean Girls. One of the best coming-of-age films ever. It's real funny. Lindsay Lohan. Jake, a big fan of it, of course. The fact that we can celebrate it every year, I think really means a lot to like a film's iconic legacy. We always have to taste it aside. I know Scott watched it then, but I'm jealous I didn't join him for it. Like, it's just, and beyond, it's also a musical about it. Like, everything about this film is huge, and it's fun, and it's funny. And if you don't like it, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I had this in my 70s, I think. I mean, yeah, it's like, it's iconic for a reason. Like, not a scene goes by without a line being uttered that you hear, like, in our cultural lexicon, like, every now and then. I mean, maybe it's just a generational thing. Maybe this is, like, perfect for my generation. It's just one of those movies, like the John Hughes movies or something, or in the 80s, or like Clueless was in the 90s. But, the movie, I think, is still really hilarious to this day. All the supporting characters. I mean, Rachel McAdams, like, one of the great movie villains, and just shows how versatile she is as an actress, because she isn't playing those types of roles really anymore. But man, she just like immediately from the first time she comes on screen, she's like instantly memorable. Tim Meadows is hilarious as the principal when he's walking through the hallway, like, I did not leave the South Side for this. That's one of my favorite lines. And yeah, even though it's exaggerated, like everything about the movie is exaggerated, like the portrayal of like high school social dynamics is still kind of pretty accurate. Like the walking through the lunchroom, that whole stuff like is great. And just the way that like the popular girls, the mean girls, are like so repulsive in their own way, but also everyone still wants to be them. And like you can't explain it, but like that's just the way it is. And that's kind of how it is in high school. So I think it gets that right. I also think it has a lot of affection for its characters. Even like Karen, for example, the Amanda Seyfried character, she gets some moments to be like, hey, this is a person here. This isn't just a pantomime villain. So Mean Girls is a classic.
All right. Come back to that one. Blade Runner got yikes. Little Shop. We talked about this on the remakes episode right before the Top 100 started. I really like this movie. This movie's grown on me. I said there that I hadn't seen it in a while. I watched it because my kids had never seen it, and I showed it to them, and they enjoyed it, and it kind of gave me the appreciation for it. I just love everything about Little Shop of Horrors. I love the original. Roger Corman made it over a weekend on a dare because someone said he couldn't, so he just used the sets from his last movie and shot this in 48 hours. And then they took that movie and made it into this off-Broadway musical, and that became this movie. So I just love the whole legacy of the thing. But yeah, it's great. The music's great. The performance is great. The puppet is amazing. The fact that they got that puppet to do that, I mean, you can tell this was Frank Oz directed because he knew what to do with the puppets. The fact that I watched this, I'm like, oh, that's definitely stop motion. Then I researched it, and I saw like, no, that was all happening live, and they just did some in-camera tricks. But it's amazing. Yeah, this movie's a lot of fun. And Mean Girls, believe it or not, a lot of people will be surprised. I like Mean Girls. I really enjoy this movie, especially for this type of movie. I think it's like just like the apex of like high school comedies, because like unlike so many high school comedies, this just gets the tone so perfect. Like it takes it serious enough, but at the same time, it knows what's going on. It ultimately it's like this is high school and it doesn't really matter, but to these people it does. I think the fact that it's a Tina Fey script is really what helps. And the adult cast is so great. It's Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Tim Meadows, of course. Tim Meadows being the best thing about anything he's in. The guy's great. But yeah, this is a really solid movie. I really enjoy that one. So yeah, 3 good picks from Spence. Rue, can you keep it going?
I hope so. My number 60 is quintessential Amaru pick, 1994's Maverick. My 59 is Mission Impossible. And my 58 is The Matrix.
Yikes for a future episode.
All right. I love talking about Maverick. It's just, again, as you've seen in my picks, this is just a fun ass time. Before we learn that guy is a complete asshole, he is very charming in this film, but more importantly, the cast as a whole is just one you ride along with, because it's Jodie Foster trying to outsmart James Garner, trying to outsmart that guy. You got a great Alfred Molina villain in there. James Coburn running the show when he runs the poker tournament, and it's one of my favorite end of a movie poker tournaments. Again, just fun to watch, exciting. A lot of the things leading up to it are really funny. As somewhat dated as it is, the scene where he's talking to the Native Americans is still kind of funny, even though it's a little dated. But I loved every part of it growing up. I still love it watching it now. And again, just Maverick, quintessential fun ass movie to watch that I love the actors and the ensemble cast in the film. And then Matrix got, yeah, so 59, I'm good. Mission Impossible. I think Mission Impossible is one of the most underrated films ever, because a lot of people enjoy it, but this film has influenced so much after it. It has one of the most iconic scenes to have ever been put on film ever. And it kicked off probably one of the greatest franchises that are around, especially an action franchise. But everybody is killing it. Cruise is killing it. Ving Rhames is killing it. John Reno is great. And just you're with them every second. And basically putting the American spin on James Bond, with all the gadgets, with all the different characters, with great action set pieces. I think people overlook this film because of how much larger and how much grander all of the other movies are after this. And I think people forget about this one, about how influential it was and how just great of a movie and how greatly paced and how greatly acted this movie is. And yeah, I love this movie to death. It's definitely top half Mission Impossible for me.
All right. Maverick. I saw Maverick when it came out. I remember it was fun. I don't remember much about it other than that. And like you said, it's an Abaru pick. It's a comfort movie. But yeah, I remember like it was just cool seeing like James Garner and Mel Gibson together. They were pretty good. Like the three of them, I remember had some pretty solid chemistry. So that's my one big takeaway from that movie. First Mission Impossible. I hadn't seen this since it came out, and I know we're talking 25 years ago. I remember not liking it. I didn't like it to the point where I didn't go back to the franchise for a long time. I think Rogue Nation was the first one I actually watched after this, and I only watched that because me and my friend were supposed to go see a different movie, and we got the times wrong. And this is the only thing that was the only thing we could have seen. So I've gone back and I've watched other movies in the series. So I went back and watched this, and I had a much greater appreciation for it. And it's very weird to see, like, watching all the subsequent movies more recently, how much of a De Palma movie this is, which is crazy. Just you go to like from the big action movies of later in the franchise. This one is such like a slow burn De Palma movie, and it's really good. I really enjoyed it, and just that take on it. And I've heard you talk about this too, Scott, where it's much more of a spy movie than anything else in the franchise to come. Yeah. And it's like I said, it's a slower burn, just really figuring things out, and just watching Tom Cruise try to like work his way through this world is a lot of fun. The supporting cast is good. So I'm glad I got to rewatch this finally. I've been meaning to for a long time. Finally got to. And I definitely have a much greater appreciation for this movie now. So that takes us to Jake and Jake's 60 through 58.
60, Ratatouille. Ratatouille. 59, Synecdoche, New York. 58, Marie Antoinette. Okay. So Ratatouille. This is a special movie to my wife and I. She actually has like a very like surprisingly like I tell you she has a tattoo of Ratatouille and it sounds like she has like the character there, but it's like this almost photorealistic rat with these spices and a little wooden spoon, and it's fucking adorable. I can't get enough of Ratatouille. So I talked last time a little bit about how Brad Bird got like unceremoniously fired from Disney. And it's really interesting because right as Disney was acquiring Pixar was when Ratatouille was being made. And this is a movie all about this rat chef, this lowly chef who comes into this old establishment that used to be great and he makes it great again. And that's actually exactly what was happening as Pixar was working within Disney all of a sudden. So I think that's really interesting about this movie. At number 59, I have Synecdoche, New York. Very divisive.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
I can see, yeah. I was expecting someone here to hate it. Synecdoche, New York. This movie, I'm glad that I'm going to keep it short, but Kaufman basically said that he wanted to make a horror movie, and the thing that scared him most was death. So, you think, oh, making a horror movie about death, that's like every horror movie, right? Like Friday the 13th and the Halloween movies. But no, he makes a horror movie about like the abstract concept of not existing anymore and not being able to leave behind what's inside of you. And there's something so chilling about the whole thing, something so upsetting. And that brings me to 58, Sophia Coppola's Marie Antoinette. I love Sophia Coppola. I think that she makes... I went a couple weeks back, I went a little hard on biopics that are by the numbers, where it's just like this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. I don't think they're universally bad, but I do think that it's a huge trap for the biopic. And this is one that completely avoids that because Sophia Coppola has always been making movies about the moments in between moments that don't often get depicted in movies. And that's exactly what Marie Antoinette is on a $40 million canvas, which she was never given again. Even though I think this is her best movie. This really paints a picture of Marie Antoinette as a teenage girl. And Sophia Coppola understands that teenage girls, even back then, they're still teenage girls. And they're still awkward and goofy and naive, and I think this movie has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. I listened to this the soundtrack to this movie over and over again. The 90s stoner rock just works for me. This movie is just a vibe. Kirk, what do you think of these ones?
All right, number 60, Ratatouille. I've talked about this before. I honestly think Ratatouille is maybe the most overrated Pixar movie, at least top 3. I just don't connect with it at all. It just doesn't do for me what I want a Pixar movie to do. It's so small scale. It's so just low stakes. I'm not interested. I don't care about the rat. I don't care about the restaurant. I don't care about it. And I know other people have talked about it too. The idea of puppeteering a person by pulling their hair is just a dumb concept. And also I love how Linguini is this poor, down on his luck chef, but he has this apartment with this perfect view of the Eiffel Tower, which is, you're gonna get that be penniless. I just have a lot of problems with this movie. It's not a terrible movie, but it's never one when I think about Pixar, it's never one I want to go back to. Synecdoche New York. I dig this movie. This is one that I had to watch. Another one I watched for the first time for trivia, and I'll tell you what. If you're in your 20s and you don't connect to this movie, all I'm going to say is wait. Give it time, because this movie is probably the best expression on film of what the passage of time feels like. I'm not going to pretend I understand everything that's happened in this movie, but the fact that his kid is in one scene, his kid's a child, is a baby, is a very small child, and the next scene is a teenager. That's realistic. That's how life moves, and just the fact that he's the fact that he's kind of watching his own life, and that's what life feels like sometimes. You really don't feel like you're living your own life. You feel like you're watching somebody else live it. It's you feel that disconnect. So I think there's so much about this movie that just for me, I was yeah, that's real. Like I said, the last 20 minutes, I have no clue. I haven't figured that out yet. But there's a lot of this movie that I gravitate to. I understand why people wouldn't like it, because it is kind of a slog. But for me, it's a good slog. I really enjoy it. And then Marie Antoinette, little behind the scenes stuff, how the sausage gets made. When the show, when I get a list for the show, I go through and check everything I need to watch and where I can watch it. Marie Antoinette was on Prime and it was on Tubi. So this week I sat down, I'm going to watch Marie Antoinette, and it was off both services, so I didn't get to watch it. So I will watch it at some point, but I haven't watched it yet. So that includes everybody's bottom 3 for the night. Not bad. Not a bad start, guys. Pretty good lists across the board. Let's get into meat to it. Everybody's going to get to talk. Scott, we'll start with you with your number 57.
What do they expect for their 35 cents? To live forever? My 57 is The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Of course, the only one that exists, the 1974 version. Yeah, one of the best thrillers of all time, one of the best New York movies. Um, just perfect. Like the movie has a perfect tone to it. Like the comedy in the movie really works. Like the mayor of New York as like a bumbling idiot, and then um, like everything going on in like the transit office between Walter Matthau and like Jerry Stiller and just all of the like old dudes who just don't have time for like what's going on. Like they're just again they're just doing their jobs. And it's just Robert Shaw plays like such a cold and terrifying villain. Like he just seems like he's so in charge the entire time. You have no idea like how they're going to be able to foil his plot, and he's just like so uncompromising. Like, nope, you have to have the $1 million here at this exact time. You don't do it, we kill a hostage every minute. Like it's just he's so like unwavering from his plan. It's a really just exciting movie. And yeah, as many people have said, this is probably my second favorite ending to any movie. Like the final shot of Walter Matthau is just I don't even want to say anymore. Like it's absolutely perfect. The way it's one of those like great like Chekhov's guns where they set something up really early in the movie and then it just like pays off like a slot machine at the end. It's just a classic 70s like crime thriller. Really holds up to this day. I don't have too much more to add. It's practically perfect for what it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise. I love this movie. This is so good. I love Matthau and I love Shaw in this, and they're almost like they're in two completely separate movies. Like Shaw's like in this very serious, gritty crime thriller, and Matthau is like almost like in a dark comedy, and they both play it perfectly, and it just works. I love both their performances. All the Martin Balsam, all the guys on the train are great, and it just there's two kind of like parallel stories happen at the same time are just so much fun. Like you said, like just that schlubby character that Matthau plays and Jerry Stiller and everything going on just has like that grimy 70s New York feel that I love so much. This and that ending is fantastic. This is a really, really good pick. Everybody else on Taking Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Nope.
I saw the movie that didn't exist. Not this one.
Rue, you should see. You would love this one. I think it's so funny that Walter Matthau. Like, if you just considered like, what would the equivalent of casting Walter Matthau in a movie like this be today? They're just never do it. They Denzel Washington is like the closest they could come up with. It's so great. He's just a work-a-day guy in this movie who's just trying his best. He's not like, I have all the answers. Like, no, like, and all of the passengers on the train are so good. I agree. This is like a perfect movie for exactly what it is. Everyone should see this. It's tight.
Yeah,
I want to see it.
They don't make them like they used to, as the old cliche guys. All right,
Spence, did you have anything on this?
Spence just said no.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think we're moving on to my 56. On the Waterfront.
We're done.
Another classic. Yeah, kind of surprised there's no yikes here. One of the best acted movies of all time, in my opinion. Like one of the best acting ensembles. I mean, Marlon Brando doing arguably his best work. And then you just have like that who's who when it comes to the character actors and everything, and the supporting cast. Lee J. Cobb playing Johnny Friendly. You have Eva Marie Saint. Rod Steiger plays his brother. You have, of course, Carl Malden, who is amazing as the priest. Like you just have like two of the best scenes, in my opinion, in a movie. One is Carl Malden's like speech down at the docks, like where he just accosts everybody, and then the other one is the scene between Marlon Brando and Rod Steiger, like in the back of the car with the famous like, I could have been somebody, I could have been a contender. It's just a great story, like about this guy who is like, he's not the most intelligent, right? Like you get the sense that almost everyone else in the movie like has a little bit more brains than he does, but like he has a sincerity, like he knows what is right, and it's just like him his struggle to do what is right in the face of like everybody who just thinks they're better than him, saying no, this is how we do things around here. And it just like it has that like classic movie energy about it, where like you just know from scene to scene that you're just watching something that has stood the test of time for a long time and will continue to do so. I was like, I watched this a couple of years ago for the first time. I was just really surprised, like how much it still connected with me, because I just, I'd always just seen like, oh, On the Waterfront, whatever, it's a classic, it's probably really good, but I don't know, am I going to feel anything? And it's still like electric. Like the drama in the movie is still electric from beginning to end. So if you haven't seen this one, come on, it's On the Waterfront.
I like this movie. I appreciate this movie. I enjoy it. I don't like it as much as a lot of other people do, or some other movies of the era. But it's fantastic. Yeah, like you said, just a very simple story with some really great performances. I think Rod Steiger and Karl Malden are the standouts for me. Steiger specifically, just that as the brother who's kind of like, the what Marlon Brando could end up becoming, and what he's kind of fighting against, and like his own being conflicted with his brother, and his duties to the gang and everything. And just like I love the crime element of it, and that exploration of that side of that kind of crime world is really good. Everybody else on the Waterfront?
I have seen this one, but only because I needed to round three it. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's brilliantly acted. It was my first look into Arlie Cobb, and man, did he leave an impression. Just classics aren't my bag. I know there's a couple I haven't seen that I would probably love to death. This one was just one I appreciated. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I saw it. Check it off the list. Don't want to go back to it, though.
Yeah, I saw this pretty recently. I really enjoyed it. I think by today's standards, a little bit, it's a little slow and a little boring, dare I say. The scene, Brando is inherently watchable in anything. Like you could watch Brando in like a piece of shit like The Island of Dr. Moreau, and like it's still pretty good. Like, but the scene where he picks up the glove that was famously improvised that Eva Marie Saint drops, and he plays with it on his hand a little bit, like. That's just some shit that you didn't really see at the time, and seeing him play in that way, in a way that's hyper realistic for the time, is so exciting. So yeah, it's a good movie.
Not the first time it's been brought up on YLS while I'm here, not the last time. It's a good movie. I get why people love it. I personally have a massive narrative problem with this. It'll stop me from loving it. Because everyone says it's a perfect movie, I have to be on the defensive the offensive, whatever, the entire time about it. That being said, Karl Malden, all-time performance, yes. I will never love the film like everyone else does.
Fair enough. Scott, what is your number 55?
Okay, this was yikes a couple times. I think it stops here, though. Do the Right Thing is my 55. This needs to be higher on my list. I'm ashamed it's this low, to be honest with you. I've watched it twice this year and fairly recently. This would be in my top 40 at least if I was to redo my list today. But I think this is objectively one of the better movies ever made. First of all, I mean, there's so much about it that just like is perfect. But the first thing that stands out to me, the color palette of this movie. Like I was watching this with my friend recently, and I was like, this is what every movie should look like. Like it just is so vibrant. Like it's just so alive. Like the colors just like pop off of the screen. And nowadays it just feels like there's so many movies that are just so like gray and just uninteresting visual landscapes. Just watching this, it was like from a whole different world. The filmmaking, like the very experimental techniques that he uses at times, like the why can't I think of what it's called? The Dutch angles, like the close-ups, all of that stuff is like really confrontational, because the whole movie is sort of meant to be confrontational in a way. I like to say that the movie is about black and white without being black and white, because really the movie is just about hate being spewed from all sides of the racial spectrum, and how we'll never get anywhere as a society unless we cut that out. Of course, it feels so relevant today, but it's a movie about, you know, this community needing to come together to overcome all of their individual prejudices. We see so many individual different prejudices expressed by characters from, again, all over the map in this movie, but also, like, obviously the third act is very, like, intense and emotional, but the rest of the movie is just such a fun hangout movie. Like, you really just get so involved in this world. You just love spending time with all of these characters, imperfect though they may be. Like, I love the scene with the guy whose car that they hose down, and, you know, you have the great, like, reggae song playing. And yeah, just like so many fun character moments, but also, again, yeah, when it needs to hit, like, one of my favorite scenes is when Jade, Mookie's sister, and Bugging Out have this conversation on the street, and they're, like, disagreeing about, you know, Bugging Out, of course, is like, I want to boycott Sal's because they don't have any black people on the wall. And Jade is like, well, I don't know if boycotting is the best strategy. Like, don't you think you could, you know, go about this in a more in a less rabble rousing way, I guess. And you know, they have a difference in philosophy about what the best way to accomplish their goals is. But then there's a moment where they just, like, pause, and they're like, I still love you, Bugging Out. And he's like, I still love you, Jade. And that's just, like, the essence of the movie right there, about how we can have disagreements about, like, what is the best way to, you know, accomplish our goals. Like, again, it feels particularly relevant in light of all the riots and stuff that happened last year. But if as long as we still love each other amidst all those disagreements, like, we're going in the right direction as a society. Obviously still feels so relevant. The ensemble is amazing. I love Ozzie Davis as the doctor, Giancarlo Esposito obviously as Bugging Out, Ruby Dee as Mother Sister. Like, everybody is so great. John Turturro, the scene where they're in Sal's, and it, like, you know, you see John Turturro, like, absolutely berating I can't think of his name, the mentally handicapped guy in the street, like, but you're just watching from inside the restaurant, like, through the window. Like, again, brilliant, like, framing of that particular scene. Like, it's just Spike Lee, it's just an absolute masterclass. I've talked too long, but it's Do the Right Thing. Like, it's an unbelievable movie.
All right, who else had this and where?
You had it first. I had it the lowest.
So you're next then, because it was 80s for me.
It was like 90 for me.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I had this at 84. I'm in the same spot as Scott. Another one where I came to this movie late and only have really seen it one time through. That's why I couldn't put it as high as I should. But again, more I see it, the more it will definitely go up on the list. Take everything that Scott said, and what makes it more wonderful for me, this is a day in the life movie. As exaggerated as all this stuff seems, this is, if you go to a Brooklyn neighborhood or any just predominantly black neighborhood, this is a day in the life. The conversations between Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee, the fact that they're actually married, just it's just so wholesome. Even with him being a drunkard, the three dudes sitting down and just talking shit about everybody is absolutely hilarious. Radio Raheem, I know Radio Raheem's. I know Roger Guinevere character. I've seen those characters. I've seen them throughout my life in different parts of this country. And it's like these conversations happen. These conversations happen in these communities. It may not boil to that point. It may not be the hottest day of the year every year, but this is what we experience every day, and is the regular where we can disagree, and we can disagree on things as important as race, or as small as your favorite pizza, whatever. We go at it, and then we're like, all right, cool. So what's happening next? And with Samuel L. Jackson in the background with the DJ narrating, it's just a great combination of very important issues and topics that need to be discussed. But for those who have seen it before and been like, yo, I know every single one of these people. And this is a great show of representation, and then a great glimpse into what we see every day. And I love every aspect of it.
Yeah, I like it. You guys said it great that this movie loves the people in this movie. It's just the larger systems and the climate. It's literally like heating up and causing everyone to they're vulnerable to the smallest spark that could set things off. And the movie isn't judgmental of the characters. It's talking about the larger system, and I love how much this movie loves its characters. I wish people don't talk about this much. I wish that Spike Lee would still act in movies. Spike Lee is a magnetic actor, and she's got to have it. He's hilarious in that movie. Like, what happened? Like, it seemed like he was, seemed like he should appear in more of his movies. Anyways.
This is definitely a good movie. I'm never going to say anything like there's anything really wrong with this. But I think it is a victim of hype for me, because just when I hear people say things like Scott did, like this is one of the best movies ever made. I define this as a movie made by a young filmmaker who has a lot to say, that feels like a movie made by a young filmmaker who has a lot to say. I think it suffers from what Spike has suffered from his whole career, that lack of subtlety, that lack of faith in his audience to get the point and have to just hammer it home. I think there are a lot of good things about it. Ossie Davis, absolute national treasure. Another guy who's the best thing in whatever he's in. I watch him do anything. I love him so much. He's good. Yeah, the rest of the cast is solid. Again, like I said, it has some of those Spike pitfalls where I can't like praise it as like an absolute great, all-time great movie. Spence, you're the only one who didn't have it on the list.
I watched it for the first time when I was like 13, and I'm sort of in the same camp as you were, where it was a victim of being overhyped, but also taking in Spike Lee at that young of an age sort of doesn't gel well with the brain. So I've been meaning to rewatch it for the longest time. I have a list of movies mentioned on here that were yikes. I was going to rewatch before it got brought up. Didn't make it in time. I'm just going to say no opinion, because I know that I have the incorrect opinion and it disagrees with how I'd probably see it now.
See these.
Sorry. My only other issue with this movie is, for me, it feels kind of dated. Like that opening sequence with Rosie Perez doing the Running Man and Dayglow spandex.
It's so great.
It's
so good.
So
there's a comment.
It's really hard for me to take anything serious. I do, but it's difficult after that opening sequence.
There's a great comment there that says subtlety is over fucking rated, and I can't agree more with that.
I feel like history has proven that this type of story needs to be told with like a sledgehammer more than because we're still not over the issues in this movie. But anyway,
and Rosie Perez is a sledgehammer. That's why she's there. So more Rosie. Let's go.
All right, Scott. What is your number 54?
My 54 is another movie about heat.
Yikes for a future up.
All right, so we're going to bounce over to Spence for your number 57.
I think
my
so,
57.
Yeah.
Scott might yikes this. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. No. Well, okay. If we couldn't tell from the past few picks, as well as just who I am, I'm a political person. Fuck you, Paul. I enjoy political films. And I think this is the rare example of a political film, which gives me optimism. That, like, I think that no matter how shitty humans can be when they manipulate and get their way into politics, there are people there who still want to do the right thing. And that is the story of Jefferson Smith. I think just his sort of like ascension into the political system as sort of like a puppet or a tool of the larger system. Fuck you, Paul. And just he gets there and he sees how evil it can be and realizes that this isn't that this isn't who he wants to be, but he still wants to be there to do the right thing and be the right person. And it all is just like a boiling point until it reaches finally like the actual final, not like a monologue, forgetting the technical term for it, filibuster of him just barely standing, barely speaking, fighting for the right thing, and actually influencing the politicians around him and working with the kids of the community. There is so much just joy there that you wouldn't expect. And is it cheesy? Yes, but I don't think it speaks down to its viewers or speaks down to the audience. I think really confronts them and says, we have a broken system and people can fix it. It just takes a lot and wants us to be better people because of it. I think that's an incredible achievement.
Yeah, Capra and Stewart together are just amazing because the stuff they do should not hold up, and it should just be looked upon as like laughed at as being cheesy. And so the magic they have is that it isn't, like it still works, and it still means something. And yeah, his character in this, it's just that idea, like that wide-eyed, ridiculous optimism, and just him being so excited to see all the stuff in Washington D.C. and like sitting at the one senator's desk and everything. Is just so great. You juxtapose that with Claude Rains, who's great in this, and just him being jaded, like just completely sucked into the system, and you're just playing in it and playing him. And yeah, that filibuster scene is so good, and just the end when he's like rasping and he's reading the Bible and just barely can stand. Just the fact that at the end, spoiler, like he fails. Like he loses, and he just kind of lucks out that his actions influence somebody else to do something that kind of carry the day. But just that's so heartbreaking in what he goes through there, and yeah, there's a reality to it. So yeah, I really love this movie. It's a great pick. Everybody else on Mr. Smith.
It's a really good movie. Yeah, I mean, so much about it just feels like, particularly in recent years, like, we're still seeing the same, like, the senators just like walking out rather than doing their jobs just makes me think like, oh, am I watching like a Supreme Court confirmation hearing from like 2 or 3 years ago? Because that kind of stuff happens. And yeah, like you said, Kirk, like, I think it's a really realistic way that like he doesn't succeed in the end. And so many political campaigns nowadays, I feel like are premised more on like we want to inspire people. I mean, that's kind of like how Bernie Sanders has like sustained his political career over the past 10 years or whatever. Is he doesn't win in the end, but like he has inspired like a whole new generation of young people in particular to have a certain ideology. So I think that part is realistic in the way that it shows how people can be inspired by campaigns, but how a lot of times the campaigns that reach the most people are not the ones which ultimately, succeed. So interesting movie that I still think is really engaging.
I have never seen this film.
Yeah, I don't have much to add, but Jimmy Stewart, real hottie.
And he's a great actor. Paul and Zach. Fuckers.
All right, so Spence, what is your number 56?
I love this show. I love all of my widely loved picks and not controversial, like How to Train Your Dragon 2. It's a great movie. I love this movie to pieces. 2/3 of this trilogy are perfect films. I think at the end of the day, I can only really include one. And I sat down with myself like, I just really love this film. I think it has a lot of stakes to it. I think it expands the world really well. I think you it's not as great, but you still have an incredible John Powell score backing it all. And everything just, it's one of my favorite animated films ever, period. And it's beyond just like that, oh, hey, it's a good DreamWorks movie. It's incredible and one of the best universes we've created in the past 10, 20 years in film. Again, like also like expanding a universe. I think showing Hiccup's backstory with it, adding to his mother and how it's like it's a descending sort of thing of how there are people before him who are still trying to like work with the dragons they were still fought against, but he is truly special in the way that he changed society. And amazing movie. People don't like this, fuck them.
Oh well. Yeah, I think this is low key maybe the most overrated movie in this community. I finally got to watch it this year, and yeah, I just don't get it. I liked the first one. I thought the first one was pretty good. I enjoyed it. My favorite part of the first one was like the flying sequences. And the cool thing about that in that movie is that they're like few and far between and they're earned. In this one, they're like, hey, the flying stuff was cool. Let's have them fly the entire movie. And like they're just on the backs of those dragons the entire time. And it just gets old after like 10 minutes. There's like the big emotional twist in it that is telegraphed instantly. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like I knew something happened. Like everybody talked, I didn't know what it was, but there's a moment where something happens, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened because they make it so obvious that's what's happening. So it really didn't connect with me because I saw it coming 10 miles away. Yeah, I haven't seen the third one, but out of the two I've seen, this is definitely the second best. Everybody else on How to Train Your Dragon 2.
You'll like it a lot more when you see the third one.
One minute. I just don't even see how anyone could give a shit about these movies at all. Like, I mean, like the first one's like pretty good. I was like, oh, this is better than I thought it was going to be for DreamWorks. And then I saw the second one, and because everyone hyped it up, like, oh, this is actually great. It's like, oh, this is basic. Like, I don't see how like this is a big deal. The third one was an abomination. So avoid that, Kirk. It's just the most bland shit. That's all I have to say about this. I don't care about these movies at all.
Wow.
I just don't care. I can't even criticize them. It's just like, didn't even leave a mark, you know?
This movie is amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. Just because you see it coming doesn't make it hurt any less. Like, the bonds in the relationship, the continuation of the world building in this movie, the stakes that they actually bring into it, the characters that you love. I'm sorry. I'm Spencer, I'm with you 100%. This is probably, arguably, one of the best animated franchises, period. It's up there. That's why I had it on my show to argue. It's fucking great. I'm sorry. You all don't like Joy, I guess.
So I can't believe this hasn't come up before, but like I have a flaw in my code where movies that are about animals or creatures or the like that do not speak or have human attributes, I cannot emotionally connect to. Like that's again, it is just a flaw in my code. With that being said, somehow this is weirdly the only How to Train Your Dragon movie I've seen because of trivia. But so I'm starting at a disadvantage is what I'm saying. With that being said, I think I enjoyed this about as much as I possibly could enjoy it, given, again, the flaw in my code, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, something about like that.
This is way too excited. You throw like 8 kids in how much you like this movie.
I don't know. It's my
something about
the movie of all time. It's really important to me.
Something about the opening dragon race and like the John Powell score and all that. You get kind of swept away. I won't lie. So I mean, it's never going to be one of my favorite movies or anything like that, or something that I will even rewatch that much. But it was much more enjoyable than I was expecting when I sat down to watch it, given the baggage I bring into it.
But it's toothless, man. It's toothless.
Yeah.
All right, Spence, says with your 55.
If this doesn't get yikes, it should be canceled. The Thing, 55, the good one.
Oh, yikes, future.
Thank you, Jake. Someone else has got this movie.
And 54.
54, Koho, play the clip.
Here he comes. Here comes the general. Ladies and gentlemen. Here comes the general. The moment you've been waiting for. Here comes the general. The pride of Mount Vernon. Here comes the general. Alexander Hamilton.
Hamilton, bitches.
We're back.
It's a fucking movie. It's a great fucking movie. It is one of the best musicals of all time. And you know why it's a great fucking movie? Because it's just the stage play. That's all that it is. No changes, nothing. This also is sort of like, I won't say revolutionized, but I think it's added something really special and like ingenious to film culture nowadays, which honestly is really helpful. People have realized, right, that there's no reason to adapt a musical if you're going to make it worse. So let's just record the stage version, which has worked great because we've gotten Newsies, Come From Away, Beetlejuice is coming, and then they fucking didn't learn with Jeremy Hansen. But when you capture one of the greatest pieces that hit theater in the past decade, as raw and visceral and as perfect as it is, there's no way you can't respect it, to the point that we had to have a fucking poll in this community to see if Hamilton counted in Disney live action in fandom, because everyone was so enamored and so drawn in by it. This is the one reason I might lose this week, because Kirk's like, oh, you didn't pick a movie. I don't fucking care. I've watched this 6 times in a year, which is a lot for me. This is perfection.
Okay, first of all, we had a poll for FANDOM because Koho wanted it in FANDOM. Let's not.
There were enough votes for it to matter.
Second of all, I don't know if you're losing more points for this pick or for that hat.
I'm committing. Happy Halloween, bitches.
It went way better than the previous time.
Yeah,
I'll say.
That's textbook pandering.
All right. Is it a movie? No. Is it good? Yes. That's all I'll say. Everybody else said Hamilton.
Yes, it's amazing. It is an absolutely amazing thing, whether it's a movie or not. It brings up, it allows me to bring up the fact that I'm still mad at myself for not putting the original Kings of Comedy on this list because I forgot about it, and I love that film. It's the closest thing I can think of, but that's more of a movie than Hamilton is, in my mind. But it's amazing. It is one of the best musicals ever. So, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't really have a leg to stand on here because I did have Stop Making Sense, which is a concert film, and this is a concert film too. I mean, again, you could maybe parse out some differences, but I don't know. So I'm not going to sit here on my high horse and say that it's not a movie. I think it's like one of the more incredible pieces of art, really, just made in my lifetime. I know Lin-Manuel Miranda is whatever. Like, I think the guy gets too much hate, to be honest with you. Sure, he does some stuff that's cringeworthy, but he's obviously extremely talented, judging by this and In the Heights. So I don't have a bad word to say about Hamilton. I mean, it's a 6 out of 5 if we could rate that on Letterboxd. It's amazing.
It should be on your list.
I haven't heard like a single song from Hamilton. I've avoided this. People are like, "Oh, it's like a rap, but it's about like history and learning and stuff."
It's so much
sounds
better than that
corny.
description.
That sounds so corny. No,
Hey,
thank
Todd, what the fuck?
See, that's the thing.
Music to
It sounds
tell
like
a
something-
story,
I'd have to,
Jake.
like- I'd
it
have
is
to,
like
like,
an epic
rap battle.
storytelling
Yeah.
or something.
This sounds like something
Epic
I
rap
would like.
battles are dope. Don't do that.
Should I sit cross-legged in like an assembly and watch this shit? Like that's
No.
what I feel like.
See,
Unacceptable!
No, I gotta see this. I know I gotta. I
Yeah.
just busting your nuts. I gotta see this.
my wife hates
know.
musicals more than I do. And she is not into corny rap, and she saw this and could not look away. They make it good. Like, if it's so well lauded to something that's probably going to be so corny, they actually make it work. And as I'm assuming the resident hip hop head on this stream, it plays, it works, and it's great.
Yeah, and as a big fan of the history, like I'm a big history. I'm a history
sectors covered here.
I'm a big history buff. Like, I love this period of history, and like the rap battle, like the cabinet rap battle, is like so accurate, like historically accurate. In rap, it's so good. I will say my favorite thing about Hamilton on Disney Plus. The touring company Hamilton is coming back to Pittsburgh next year. Tickets are going to be going on sale. Pre-Disney Plus, tickets start at $500. Post Disney Plus, they start at $49. So thank you, Disney Plus, for that.
As a fan of Murder in New Jersey, this is a great film.
All right, that was your 54. So we're going over to Rue for Rue's number 57.
Yeah, I know you'll be talking Koho. Yuck.
All right, 57 is, I think, my favorite coming of age film of all time, and that is, and he's frozen. Lovely, he'll be back. And that is Dope. Dope is my life. When you are the geek among all the hood and all the not geek and all the people who like you think would call you geeks and make fun of you, but in reality, like, they look at you and you're like, good dude, let him be. But if they get into some shit, what are we going to use him for? Everything about this film is so good and so accurate. Shamik Moore and Tony Revolori and Kirstie Clemens together are what like a crew should be. A$AP Rocky is weirdly good in this. He is the OG that like looks out for the good kids in the neighborhood. Like, man, I know you. Get away from this. until he gets in some shit. And he's like, all right, you're the one that I need you for now. Zoe Kravitz is heartfelt in this, and the relationship with her and Shameik Moore. You really want to succeed. It's funny. It's out there as fuck sometimes, which I will say there's one scene for me. It was like, okay, maybe I'll skip past this one because it's a little too much. But I love this film to death. And especially the whole story about him trying to get Harvard and the story he and the essay he's writing. It just connects to my black geek heart. Blurs love this film, and I love it to death.
Yeah, I've only seen this the one time, and I really enjoyed it. I want to rewatch it again because it's been a while and I don't remember everything about it. But I remember really enjoying it. Like like you said, like that representation of like black geek culture that you never see, and that's like for them to be the main characters too. Like you'll see movies where that's like a side character, and it maybe is treated as a joke or whatever. But for them to be like, that's who these are. Like the movie has a lot of heart. The characters are real. I hate coming of age movies where it's like just fake characters. All these characters feel real. Like again, I said this before about another movie. The world feels lived in, and you root for them. And I really enjoy it. So again, it's another one I want to revisit, but I did like it a lot. Everybody else on dope.
I watched this for trivia, and it's pretty good. Big fan of it. Love coming of age films. I think it creates LA as like a character in the narrative, and or California as like a thing in the narrative, and it's great. I think it works really well. I think it's a really interesting and just the world seems real, even if some of the things are like very big and exaggerated. I think it still grounds it in a way that makes it really interesting and very funny.
Yeah, I like the movie too. I've only seen it once as well, and it was on a plane, so not always the ideal viewing scenario for movies. But I already talked about how the first time I saw The Big Lebowski was on a plane too, and that made my list. So maybe this will make my list someday. I don't know. I did really enjoy it. I think obviously I don't connect to it as in the same way, but I think that I like that about it because it shows me a world that I probably otherwise might not experience, but also at the same time it means it might not ultimately ever be one of my favorites, but I really do enjoy the movie. And Zoe Kravitz, I'm always looking very respectfully when she is in a movie.
Yeah, no, Zoe Kravitz is fantastic in this. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I think it's really good. One thing that holds it back a little bit for me is that sometimes it feels like it's stretching a little bit too much to be a little bit too 90s cool, a little bit too winky, Fresh Princey, and it just, sometimes it can feel a tad inauthentic in how the same way I feel honestly about some of J. Cole's music. I feel like it's a little bit, oh yeah, we get it. You know the 90s, like you remember the 90s. That's how I feel about this movie. A little bit, just a little bit. I'm a big J. Cole fan. I've seen him live before.
I'm gonna reel that in just a little bit. I'm gonna reel it in just because I'll let you know when somebody's into the 90s like that, they're into the 90s to that nature. That's how realistic that is. They go all in. And J. Cole is amazing, so I'm glad you have supported the man. So,
all right, Rue, give us your number 56.
My 56 is my number one Star Wars film, and that's Rogue One. Star Wars story. I can objectively say that probably a good amount of the original ones are a better film, but for me, as great as they are a slog to get through sometimes, and I don't want to go back. This is the Star Wars film. Not saying anything bad about it. They're a little too slow for me. They just are. This one is amazing to me. When I first saw it, how I connected, and I hear all the arguments about how you don't connect to the characters and it's not whatever. I don't understand. I connect to every single character from jump. All of the actors are amazing in this film. Mads Mikkelsen can do no wrong. Ben Mendelsohn is the perfect amount of just sinister, but not really the top dog, and he plays that to perfection. The fact that Cassian has to straight up kills the dude at the beginning of the film, you're like, okay, these characters are not perfect in any way. They're just trying to do what they need to do to survive. And the MVP of basically every film he's in, or at least one of them, Alan Tudyk as K2SO is my favorite droid of all time. He is sarcastic and hilarious and just absolutely pitch perfect. The fact that a Disney film, because this is full on Star Wars Disney, killed every single one of these people, and they did that, was something I never thought Disney would ever do. And it was like, that makes me feel for the character so much more. And if we can get Donnie Yen in everything, please give me Donnie Yen in everything. And lastly, the lightsaber scene with Vader is fucking amazing. And I don't know why people hate the don't choke on your aspirations. I think that is a dope ass line that is that is perfect for a person who came into the original Star Wars late, saw the puns and was like, "Oh, that's why that happens." I enjoy the hell out of this movie. It is what I enjoy in my fantasy movies, where there are characters you love. The pace is a little just, it doesn't slog as much. You don't have that much of a lull. There are stakes to it, and I, again, as a person who has seen all the Star Wars plenty of times, this is the one that I love going back to the most. And yeah, I love it. Just for your information, Empire is 2, The Last Jedi is 3.
Okay, you had me till the end there.
Respect.
Because I was going to say, this is your favorite Star Wars movie. That's not as wrong as you possibly could be, but based on your list, you're close. No, this is a good. I don't think this is a perfect Star Wars movie. I think this is a perfect Star Wars standalone movie. I think this is great for what they do. I'm a fan. I know it's cool to hate on it now, but I love the saga. I want this. That's what I want out of my main Star Wars movies. But I love a standalone movie like this. It takes a little corner of the lore and expands on it like it should. I think it did a great job of that. I think it's just really cool to see a Star Wars war movie. I think that I wish we would have seen like a lot of those deleted scenes, like just the stuff you see in the commercial, like her in the pilot uniform and them running from the AT-ATs and everything. I wish we would have seen that version of it, because I think that may have been a more exciting movie. There's some stuff in the third act, especially, that I don't love, that I feel like got chopped up somewhere. But no, overall, it's a really fun movie. I got no complaints about this. Like I said, this is where I want people to experiment in the standalone movies. Like I want uniformity in my saga movies. Take these standalone movies and have fun with them. Do what you can do, and that's what they did here. So I'm not going to say anything bad about your pick. Everybody else on Rogue One.
Yeah, for a movie that was directed by like 7 different people, probably, it turned out awesome. It really did. I'm a huge fan of this movie. I also have a oddball Star Wars take, I guess, which will be coming up on my list a little bit later. But so I respect that route. But yeah, this movie's great. Like, I don't agree at all that you don't connect to the characters. Like, I think all the characters are fantastic. Like, it makes it such a gut punch at the end when they when they do all die. I mean, I think Felicity Jones is just really underrated in general. I almost always enjoy her and stuff that she's in. And yeah, K2SO is great. There's a problem on the horizon. There's no horizon. Yeah, some great lines. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it just, the emotional stuff really works. Like, the rebellions are built on hope, and all of Jen's whole back narrative, like, the last 30 minutes or so is really kind of spine tingling. So no complaints here about the pick. It's a great movie.
It's a real great half a movie. The first hour, I don't give a fuck about any of the characters or anything that's happening. The biggest failure of the movie isn't that it's bad; it's that it's not really directed. Like I said, it's not really directed by one person. It's not really a cohesive story. I think a lot goes on basically until the Battle of Scarif, and it's just like, oh, this is there. Like when the planet blows up, no one cares. It's just there. Forrest Whitaker is bad. The weird hentai alien stealing the is bad. Her prison escape is bad. whatever the fuck. When her dad just gets shot, I don't give a fuck. Like nothing in this movie matters.
Scene, though. How does that opening scene not connect you to the dad and mom?
I'm gonna kill a character you have no connection to, kidnap a character you have no connection to, and a girl goes and hides. Like nothing there happened, and even on rewatch when I know.
I guess you hate Inglourious Basterds too.
We can talk about that. We can talk about that later, Scott. But no, Rue,
we will. Don't worry.
This being your favorite Star Wars movie genuinely makes no sense because there's everything done in this movie is done better in other Star Wars films, and together they're just an unappealing pile of.
Rue, I actually agree with everything you said, even though I fake threw up when you said this was your favorite Star Wars movie. I actually like the "don't choke on your aspirations" line too. Like I like the characters. I love the ending. The opening is amazing. And it has some amazing moments. I just think that there is probably the first third of the movie, other than the opening scene, it just all feels disjointed, like it's jumping from place to place to place. And Saw Gorilla, it does feel like this limb that never really developed in the plot. Like it was probably something at some point, and it just never really got there. And I do think that we're all a little biased because I also remember the trailer coming out and so much stuff being in the trailer that didn't end up in the movie. It really threw people off a little bit. That was a weird little bit of. Do you guys remember this?
I think
one little thing.
I think for me, I didn't see this in theaters because I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan, so I don't remember any of those. So that doesn't affect me. So I need to go back and watch the trailer and then be like, oh damn. I might and look for it because I saw this way later than it came out because Star Wars was never like my huge thing. So I was like, I'll watch it one day, and then ended up loving it.
What does Saw Gorilla think of this movie?
Saw Gerrera? I can only go to Boar Gullet for so long, so that's about it. I love it. That's all I can do.
All right, Rue, what is your number 55?
Kirk, we're going to go back to FANZONE, and I can actually see your actual thoughts when you don't have to argue about me about what I actually think is one of the best thrillers of the 2000s, I believe 2000s, and that's 16 Blocks. I love this. Another one I came too late, and when I saw it, it just surprised the hell out of me, and I loved this film. The biggest thing I like about this film is that as a thriller, it's not trying to really go through a huge twist or a big thing. They tell you exactly what's going on, and it's really about take a ride with these two people. Can they go these 16 blocks with dozens and dozens of corrupt cops in their way? Go along for the ride. And take that and put Bruce Willis in what he does best, in a role of what he does best at the time, where he doesn't give a shit. Give him a character that doesn't give a shit. So he's acting, actually. He's doing it well. And a lot of people hate the choice Mos Def takes with his voice. And I was thrown off when I first heard it. But by the end of the movie, I absolutely love it, because when you have somebody who's as jaded as a Bruce Willis being Bruce Willis, you need somebody who is optimistic and is looking at the signs and is all for change and saying anybody can change. And usually you hear somebody like that and you're like, you're full of shit. But the fact that he uses that voice makes him more believable. You're like, a dude who sounds like this would believe this, would 100% believe this. And the dynamic between the two of them becomes more believable, and you just want to, you know they're going to make it. You just want to know how they're going to make it and when they go through. And from moment, so it takes, I will say it takes about, because I rewatched this when I had to argue this movie against Kirk. And it does take maybe about 10 to 15 minutes to really go. But the second it goes, it doesn't, it just goes and goes and goes and doesn't stop. Even with the smaller moments of dialogue between the two, because as your heart is racing and it backs up, you build the character and the dynamic between the two. So you're just along all the way to the end. I know, Kirk, you said they telegraphed a little thing with Bruce Willis at the end. I forgave it because I loved it by that point. So I absolutely love 16 Blocks. And I also just love Mos Def as an actor. So More of him / Yasin Bey in everything, please.
Yeah, see, this is the problem. You referred to it is you made me basically hate watch this movie. Like I had to go through it. I had to go through and nitpick it and find every single thing I could watch. So I had to watch it from that lens. But objectively as I can, even though I've only had that one watch, it's not a bad movie. I think it's a fun, little thriller. I think Donner does a good job with it. I do think, it's Bruce Willis, sleeping through most of it because that's what he was doing at this time in his career. Most stuff isn't bad. That voice is hard for me to deal with. It feels like a Marlon Wayans character from In Living Color. Like it's just going on. But it's hard to take that seriously. But like I said, unfortunately I was forced to take a negative stance against this movie, and that colors my view of it. I have to rewatch it freely and just look at it as a normal viewer and not somebody that wants to tear it apart. But everybody else on 16 Blocks.
This is your second Yasin Bey movie.
Most Def's one of my favorite rappers, and he is one of my favorite rapper turned actors. You can collectively change between Yasin Bey and Most Def all you want. Either name is perfect.
Right. I think he goes by Yasin Bey now. I don't know.
He does. Yes, he does.
He's one of. I think he's for having such a short career. He's so good in everything, and he makes such big choices, and that's what I love about him. I love that he does the voice. It's like most musicians turned actor, I think, would have too big of an ego or be too nervous to go as big as he's willing to go. You see it in something like Be Kind, Rewind as well. And I think he's just a fantastic actor. And I think it's pretty brave what he's doing with like doing a big goofy voice. I really love him.
Never seen it, never heard of it.
It's a Richard Donner.
So true to form for Rue's list, I have seen this on cable many years ago. Could not tell you a single thing about it except that Bruce Willis and Mos Def are the leads of it. So I don't know. Maybe that means it wasn't a good movie. Maybe it just means I haven't seen it in a while. But it's definitely a Rue pick. That's what I will say. You
all are taking a journey through my childhood and teenage and adult years. This is what you're doing with this top 100. My number 54.
If you told me you haven't seen this, I'd be like, what?
yeah, probably. My number 54 is a movie that I'm very upset that I have not had the time to go back to talk about it more because I chose to watch another movie later on today or tonight. But it is one of my favorite comedies ever. And can somebody say, Slapping the Basement? I love you. I love the hell out of this film. I love Paul Rudd. I love Jason Segel. I want to be friends with them. I want a dog named Anwar Sadat. I want to go sell houses for Lou Ferrigno. This is just the funnest time ever. And I think it's the Judd Apatow-ish comedy, not directed by Judd Apatow, that takes all the things you might not like in some of his films, puts them away, and just lets you sit back and enjoy everybody you're looking at. J.K. Simmons, I am so mad he is not in the movie more. Damn, is he so funny in this film? The dynamic or the husband and wife relationship between him and Rashida Jones, it's just a cute ass, hilarious ass, fun ass film that I need to watch again. I bought the Blu-ray specifically for this and haven't gotten to it yet, and I just cannot wait. It gives me all the joy.
I don't think you're the first person to have this on the top 100. I can't remember who had it.
I think Zach had it, or
I think Zach did have it. Yeah, that's exactly
right. That checks out. But yeah, no, this is again top 100. It's not a bad movie though. I like it. It's the dynamic between the son, and it's very well captures like that adult thing of like trying to like make new friends or find new friends or like expressing like appreciation for another person as an adult.
Adelaide,
like-
how much do you connect with that as two people who within the last 5 years have moved to Charlotte? Like, I need people. Where are my people? Yes.
Friends is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm like an hour down the road.
But yeah, and I think you don't get a lot of movies that explore that, and I think that's kind of the point of it. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny, and like you said, it's that kind of like Judd Apatow. I don't want to say it's more heart because I think his movies do have heart, but I think like with I don't know, just it's more genuine, a little more genuine. It's a little less jokey, and the character's a little more real. So yeah, I appreciate it. Everybody else on I Love You Men.
I've not seen it.
I
Nor have
got
I.
the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray.
I was like kind of like obsessed with this movie when it came out. Like me and my friend we watched it on a laptop, and like later that night when we were drunk or whatever at like his cottage, we were like, want to watch it again? And we watched it again. And I have to say, I've kind of done a 180 on this movie where I don't even like it anymore. I don't think I like this movie.
Oh no.
It's a weird thing. It doesn't happen a lot, but I really like this movie. And now I go back and watch it. Maybe it's just me getting older, but I'm like, it's fucking stupid. This guy wants a friend. I just make a friend. Like, oh no, you don't have a best man. It's like, just pick your brother. Who gives a shit? Like,
no, you can't do that.
I don't know. I turned on it. I don't know. I love Rush. I can't help it.
That was your 54. So now, Jake, we're coming to you for number 57.
Okay, and so earlier I brought up Synecdoche, New York, which is Roger Ebert's favorite movie of all time, and it's about like a weird fake city. And next I have one of Gene Siskel's favorite movies. It's also about a big weird city. I have Babe, Pig in the City.
That was gonna be Saturday Night Fever.
Where's Nazario at? I thought.
How has it been mentioned twice in YLS now?
I don't know.
It's really.
Yes. He had it much higher though. So
Yeah, Nazario like number 8 or something.
yeah.
Okay, well, put the little graphic up that says Babe, Pig in the City. Show it some respect.
There we go.
Thank you.
Unacceptable!
So this movie is a very normal, very regular movie that just it makes perfect sense. It's about basically this little pig that goes into this big weird like German expressionist like city that's just a combination of all these cities. It's kind of got like this Paddington vibe too. If Paddington gave you nightmares, it's fucking weird and kind of claustrophobic, and there's all these talking animals in it, and it's just incredible that that they got this many animals on screen choreographing them, and that they are holding my attention. Like I just the whole thing, it's like a weird fever dream. Like watch this movie if you have the flu. Like I feel like I want to know what you think when you like take hard drugs and watch Babe, Pig in the City. It's fucking wild. Yeah, Kirk, I assume you hate Babe, Pig in the City.
Yeah, it is a fever dream, but fever dreams aren't good things. Fever dreams are a very awful experience. So that's a very good description of this movie is. Yeah, I don't like this at all. I don't get the appeal. I know I can see what they're going for, but I think they failed. I think this movie is just above all things ugly. Like it's like nauseating to look at. Like I hate the set design. That hotel is just so poor. Like it's supposed to be like this big expensive thing. Like again, you said claustrophobic. It feels that way, but I don't think it's supposed to. I think it's just a flaw in the cinematography or something. And yeah, it's just dumb talking animals, and yeah, it's super dark, but for no good reason. I hate this movie. Everybody else on Babe, Pig in the City.
At least the animals talk. But yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
This movie is weird and just. I'm with Kirk. It's a hard watch to do. Had to round 3 and it was like, man, this is.
That's why I watched it too.
It's trying to be sweet, but it's just being a little. It's just too dark. It didn't mix the dark and the sweet well. It just came out awkward and somewhat gross, like a gross feeling after watching it. Maybe it doesn't have gross things. I was just like, oh, okay, sure.
Like the dog with its head in the.
Yeah, especially with the original one actually being really sweet. And then this one was like, George Miller. Oh, right. Yeah, George Miller.
It's a brutal film.
Did you try to make Mad Max into I don't know. What are you doing? Is it in the Mad Max world? That's why I felt that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's scary. I agree.
I just love so much that over the past 4 or 5 weeks of Jake picking really fucked up horror films and Rob Zombie nightmares, this gets the strongest reaction from the panel. I have no interest in this. Probably never watch it. You couldn't fucking pay me to. I do not care about Babe or him being in a fucking city.
Fair.
All right, Jake. Number 56.
I have another strange, weird fever dream fake city movie coming up next. I didn't plan this, but I have 3 weird fever dream fake city movies. I have Eyes Wide Shut, which has already been yikes.
Yeah, that was on my list.
Yeah, Scott, you yiked it. So Eyes Wide Shut. My favorite thing about
I have nothing to say. That's why I'm going for a second.
Okay.
It looked like you. Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut. So the thing I like about this is that the thing with Kubrick is that he's usually dealing with much larger ideas like space and like war and like abstract ideas like violence and stuff. And to me, it's fascinating to watch Kubrick try to scale it down into like, yeah, what about like human relationships? And I think people that hate this movie are like, he failed to capture human relationships. Like, this is so weird and stilted, and this isn't what like parties are like, and this isn't what a city is like, and this isn't real or whatever. And it's like, yeah, realism is totally overrated. Kubrick, I don't think he's aiming for realism, but even if he is, whatever his strange lens on the world is as a weird old recluse, that's a much more interesting version of the world to me and of relationships to me than anything like a Noah Baumbach, A Marriage Story or something. This is much more interesting to me. Okay. Yeah, it's like looking at a Picasso painting and be like, oh, why is it all fucked up? It's like, yeah, it's because it's made by some genius. He knows what he's doing. Like, I don't get why people hate this movie.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit as well. I think I mentioned this before, but Kubrick is one of the few auteurs where it's just like his movies just don't connect for me. Like, not that I don't think they're not good. Like, obviously they're made with like an incredible craft, but just like emotionally, they don't go anywhere with me. And this is the only one that does of the ones that I've seen, which is weird because like I'm not married, right? And this movie is like a lot about marriage and infidelity, I think, in particular. But I don't know, just something about like this like surreal, like Lynchian, all in one night like plot that he like, orchestrates it's the mystery of it, I think, is what really draws me in. And Tom Cruise, again, as I've said, he's my favorite actor, I think. He's doing a lot of interesting things here. The movie is weird,
though, right?
Do what?
Oh, sorry.
No, what'd you say?
I said it's all just like off though, right? Like the whole thing is just like a little off. Like,
yeah, and it's a weirdly funny movie as well, which I appreciate because, like, the situation obviously that he finds himself in is like just ridiculous to some degree. So I like that they own up to that, and then like the very last line obviously is very humorous of the movie, and one of the best last lines. I'm good, but it's a great Christmas movie. Last 2 things I want to say: great Christmas movie, number 1, and number 2, Sidney Pollack with the suspenders and no shirt on underneath is an all-time movie look right there.
He's great in it.
He is great.
Yeah, Michael kind of stole my joke. When you're trying to show human relationships, and the people you choose are Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, you're gonna fail at reflecting human relationships. And honestly, the two of them, the Kubricky stuff about this movie, doesn't bother me. My problem with this movie is them, specifically Nicole Kidman. I don't think she's a great actress overall, and I think she is terrible in this. I know what she's doing. That one scene where they're talking and she starts laughing at him, I honestly can't tell if she's supposed to be fake laughing or if she's just doing such a horrible job pretending to really laugh. Like, she's actively bad at this. Cruise isn't awful, but he's not that great either. I think if you had two other actors, especially, and I just hate the stunt casting of putting them together, that never works. I feel like if you had two other actors in this, I think you'd get a much better product. But yeah, like the real the party at the end and all the shots on the all and everything. I don't mind the look of it. I mean, it's not an otherworldly city. It's just London, very obviously not being New York. But it works. And like the Christmas kind of vibe, like just juxtaposes with like the grimness of the story. So there's a lot about it I like, but the two leads just kill it. Honestly, this is one of my least favorite Kubrick movies, and it's almost entirely because of them.
Can I just say though that sorry to interject, Kirk, but they filmed it over 400 days, so they probably had the version that of Nicole Kidman's performance that he wanted. I mean, he picked that one. Like, I can't blame her, right? Like,
I don't know.
He ventured it.
I know. Rue, you said you haven't seen this. Spence, you didn't have it on your list. Any talk about it?
Remember we mentioned earlier in the show, there was two movies I was going to watch next week. I'm not sure if it'll show up on screen. My wireless watch list for Yikes movies are Do the Right Thing and Eyes Wide Shut. I was going to watch them both next week.
That's a great double feature right there.
Yep, very similar films. I'll try to watch them both before the end of the show. I love Kubrick. That's like my big blind spot for him. That and Barry Lyndon.
All right, that takes us to Jake's number 55.
At number 55, I have Dazed and Confused.
Yikes to a future episode. And you should thank me because Kirk is going to kill us when we get there.
Jumped on that grenade.
Okay. Number 54, Babe, Pig in the City. Okay, maybe that's not a normal movie. Okay. Like, maybe that's a weird movie, okay? But Gremlins 2 is a very normal film about normal gremlins who break into like a giant TV station. And this movie's fucking weird. And that's what I love about it. It's Joe Dante said that like they told him that they wanted to make a sequel to Gremlins, and he's like, well, Gremlins doesn't need a sequel. It had a great ending. He's like, I should make a movie about how Gremlins doesn't need a sequel and about how like ridiculous consumerism and conglomerates are. And it feels like the more and more the further we get into this dystopia, the more Gremlins 2 was proven correct. There's a Twitter account called the Institute of Gremlins 2 Studies that everyone should follow, where they take this very seriously. And they point out that like a lot of the jokes like in Gremlins 2 don't even land today because it's real. Like a cooking channel where there's only cooking was a joke at the time. And it's like, yeah, that's just a thing now. And let me just read something from the Gremlins 2. I don't. Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to read anything from this Twitter account. But anyways, you should go follow it. It's great. Gremlins 2. Why do you hate it?
This is another movie I got a lot. It's been on the list before, and I've gotten a lot of flack for it because I said I liked it. This is. I told this story on the last one. I'll tell it again. I've kind of come full circle on this movie. When I was a kid, like I was like the perfect age for like this kind of Gremlins movie. I was just excited, like, yeah, more Gremlins. This is awesome. Vegetable Gremlin and sexy Gremlin and lightning Gremlin is cool. I just want more Gremlins. And then as I got a little older and I was like, started to like learn about film, I was like, oh, that's stupid. That was just a cash in, whatever. They just trying to sell toys. And then like as I like got even older and like I learned about like the story of this and why it was made and the idea behind it, I kind of like turned on it again, and like I really enjoy it now, just because of everything you were saying, Jake, like the ideas before, just what Dante was trying to say and what he did, and just how prescient the movie is with so much stuff. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this. I think, you mentioned Babe, but I honestly think this is the kind of thing that Babe Pig in the City was trying to do and failed. And Dante really just threaded the needle there, because this could have just been complete garbage. But he did a really good job of making like almost a non-sequel, which is just something you don't see. So yeah, I give this one a thumbs up. Everybody else on Gremlins 2.
Haven't seen it.
The only thing I know about this movie is that Leonard Maltin appears in it at one point, and so it cannot be all bad because Leonard
He gets
Maltin is a
killed.
national
Yeah.
treasure. Well, maybe it can be all bad.
I watched it a good amount as a kid and enjoyed it. I haven't seen it since then. But it was fun for little me.
Kirk, your journey is very relatable.
All right, so that was your 54. So now we're going to go into everybody's bottom three. We're going to do it carousel style, starting with Scott and his number 53.
Okay, so I'm curious to know. I dropped the teaser in the chat today of a thing of Jiffy Pop. Does anyone know what the movie was? Because it's my number 53.
Scream.
It's Scream. Of course, Drew Barrymore is making Jiffy Pop in the opening scene of the movie, and it explodes, and it's a great image. There are many great images in Scream, which is still one of the best horror movies of all time, in my opinion. I just love watching Wes Craven unpack the tropes like that he himself was kind of like responsible for making tropes, but also like there's such a balancing act going on of the satirical stuff, like the knowing, hey, we've seen horror movies, we know what the cliches are, but also it's a great horror movie in which all of the characters still fall into those traps, anyway. And so like I think that dynamic is really fun throughout the entire movie. Like again, people talk about this movie, they're like, oh, it's a really fun movie. Of course it's really fun, and like it's comedic and satirical. It's also like a pretty brutal horror movie. Like I won't lie, like the opening scene, like Drew Barrymore getting like murdered, like crawling across the yard, like right as her parents like are coming home and like seeing her there, like bleeding out on the lawn, basically. Like that's brutal. I mean, I guess she's hanging there by the time they get back, but it's pretty brutal. So again, I think he walks the line very carefully, but it still holds up because horror movies are still doing some of the same things. And I think it's amazing the way that over the course of all four movies, right? You think that this is a premise that would just run out of time or would run out of steam after one movie, but like he keeps finding ways in all of the sequels to like find a new angle on it. But anyway, the movie is a ton of fun still. And like the kills are very inventively staged. Obviously, like Tatum's getting crushed in the garage door is very memorable. I love Neve Campbell as Sydney. She's a great final girl, like has the right like innocence about her for this type of character. I think she's perfect for that. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for most of my life, I've been repeating the line, "I'll be right back" every time I leave a room, like trying to say it like Matthew Lillard, because iconic scene there. And all the supporting characters are fun. Jamie Kennedy as Randy, is another fan favorite for a reason. Yeah, I mean, like this, I feel like this movie just gets talked about a lot because it's a favorite of a lot of people, and I totally understand why. It's a favorite of mine too, and has been for a long time. It's just a great horror movie while also being a horror satire, and the two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. So I think only Wes Craven maybe could have pulled it off, but that's why he's one of the best to ever do it in this genre.
I remember this movie came out. It's a really solid movie in and of itself. I kind of feel like we've moved past Scream though. Like I think it's been like we're like post parody or post whatever Scream does with Scary Movie and Cabin in the Woods. And I will disagree with one place. I think this franchise has absolutely run out of gas. I don't think this franchise has anything left. I was actively disgusted when I saw them release the trailer for 5. I don't think these movies have anything left to say at all. especially after 4.
Yeah.
And
I did not like the trailer for 5, but I
Yeah.
do like all of the other movies.
And I mean, honestly, like I feel like the fact it's not fair, but I feel like I'm holding the fact that they're still making these movies against the original, and I shouldn't do that because in and of itself, what it was a pretty solid movie and a pretty solid concept. Spence, I want you to go last because I'm kind of shocked you didn't yikes this. Everybody else go on Scream.
The only reason I don't have this on my top 100 is because I am not a huge horror fan. So not many horror movies are making my list. I think this movie is amazing, though. I appreciate it more the older I got. I do enjoy Scream 4, 2 and 3 or whatever. So I'm talking about all of them at once. But Scream in general, it is a quintessential classic. Probably should be on anybody's who's a horror fan top 100. And I'm going to do this very quickly. Final Girl, One Gotta Stay on Monday if you want to be a part of it. Nev Campbell is a part of my One Gotta Stay list for Monday. So
I saw that. I was tempted because Anya is also in there.
Yes, Anya Taylor-Joy is also in it, but I'm going to shut up for my plugs. But
that's cool.
Let me know if you want on.
Jake, what do you got on Scream?
Oh yeah, I love Scream. I love that Scream is like it's a deconstruction of slashers, but it's also just a really good slasher, and it has its own unique twist. Where it's a very simple and elegant twist where there's 2 of them, and I love that it uses this stock horror character that I hate in most slasher movies, and it's like the funny friend who's actually just like a dick, where he's just gross to women, and he's just like a piece of shit, and you're supposed to be laughing at him the whole time. And then they weaponize this annoying character, and they're like, no, he's actually unhinged. And that's like a perfect, they're using the genre in this annoying, minor trope that, if you've seen enough slasher movies, you know this guy's like a type. And they're using him for if someone was this much of an asshole, guess what? They would end up conspiring in this murder. I think it's really smart. People don't talk about that enough. Matthew Lillard, amazing in that movie.
So I don't know how the rest of you guys saw this. It's not coming out for another 3 months, and then we could pick future movies.
Shut up. I'm so mad that they're calling it Scream.
That's a dumb choice.
Yeah,
but
no,
Kirk,
that sucks.
You shouldn't have gone to me last, because now you get to sit with the joy of knowing that my favorite is actually Scream 4. I love the fuck out of that movie. Here's the thing. I'm a pretty big horror fan that's been evolving over the past while. I really like this movie. I think it's great. It's one of the better screenplays of just the 90s in general, let alone horror screenplays. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a movie that it's when you're pitched that this has changed the genre and has both critiqued everything that it was and also is that there's so much for it to build up to. And I am nothing if not a victim of hype. This is a 4-star movie. Honestly, could be a 4.5 on a rewatch once I'm more used to it. No complaints about this. Great pick. But Kirk, put the respect on Scream 4. Fucking awesome movie.
So tired. All right, Spence, what is your number 53?
One of the greatest opening scenes in any movie ever. My 53, Scott, I got you. A24 representing Ex Machina. This is one of my favorite theater experiences ever. I couldn't tell you what drove me to watch it or why I was just engaged with this in the first place. You know what? Let's just go. Let's drive half an hour. Let's go watch this. Why not? And I was blown away. I refer to a lot of movies in top 100s this is the movie that broke me in this kind of way. And this one was just maybe I am a pretentious bitch. Because ever since this movie, I have gone out of my way to seek down A24 because it's just rocked my world. It's one of my favorite sci-fi films, obviously, but I think there's more to that than just it's on this list. I think it has a great way of telling. I think sci-fi in general has a tendency to have this big, epic stories of world changing ramifications about the technology created. Well, this is that. It's a lot more personal and just sort of the smaller story. I think adds to why I love it so much. Questioning what it means to be human and doing it through the lens of romance because I think there's a way you can tell this story. Very Blade Runner, very cold for the most part, and this just has an idea that this is reaches into your soul and really makes you question it, the same way it does for Kaleb in that film. Just am I even human? Am I going through the motions of faking human interaction? I think that's brilliant. And the entire cast, even though it's basically 3 people plus the fourth who never got famous, unfortunately, because she's great, but every one of them just creates one of the most indelible and perfect and intriguing sci-fi films I have ever seen. And I think this could be like the most, like one of the impactful films for genre filmmakers for the next generation.
This is a really solid pick. I like this movie a lot. I just love it. It is such a great like A24 style movie. It has that feel to it. But I love that tone. And what I like is like you're saying, like it's not some like big world changing movie. In a way, it is. Like I mean, it's they talk about like they're basically ushering in the end of humanity. And it's so like bone chilling because it is so personal. You know, it's almost scarier than if it was like robots out like shooting people, like Terminator. Like it's just like these like 3 people trapped in this building, or 2 people in this robot trapped in this building, and like what's the ramification of this? What impact is it going to have in the world? And that's so scary. And like you said, it is so personal. I think Oscar Isaac is great in this. He's so scary, but also just so sad, and he's funny. Like the scenes with him dancing, and who you gonna call? That's a great line. That's like one of my all-time favorite lines. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Dan Aykroyd has oral sex with a ghost. It's so great. It's so good, and the special effects are just so good. Like they're not showing that, it's not showing off, but the effects of like the android, like the robot, like all the parts are so good. Just such a solid effects in it too, that are just real low key and you can't like really tell, but they're there and they're good. Everybody else on Ex Machina.
Spence, you said that you couldn't. It makes you question: are you even human? I don't think an algorithm would put Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed on a list of the.
I'm sorry, this computer has taste, Jake.
So I think you're safe. I don't think they're going to make a computer that could do that. Okay, I think this movie kind of like plays with the different genres of robots in a really fun way. Like I think the movie it convinced me anyways. Oh, she's like a Blade Runner robot. You know, like, oh, she's like it's a human rights metaphor, and you kind of get caught up in these genre tropes of like, is this consciousness? And I think the movie's actually pretty clear at the end that no, she's a Terminator robot who's like running every path to see like how she can unlock this dude. That's what I like about it. She's just a cold, evil robot. That's how I love that there's multiple interpretations of the movie, but that is the one that I landed on ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, add this to the list of movies that like probably look better than most Marvel movies, despite costing like 50 times less than those movies do. I think like the production design in general of like the house and everything is like very like inventive. Like I don't know, the house is like this weird like puzzle almost, like the way that it's like outlined. Like you feel like you just get trapped in there, but. It's a really good movie. I think I prefer Annihilation of Garland's work, actually. I think I do like it a little bit more. But I've still only seen this one once, so it's possible on, and that was in theaters when it came out. So it's possible on a revisit, which I'm due, that I would like it even more. But yeah, I mean, it's very good and very influential.
I have not seen this.
Rue, I think you'd like this one. You should check it out.
Yeah, I've been told, and I should at some point.
Tell us what is your number 53.
All right, so this is the one that I never remember whether it's you or our other Old Man Dread member who thinks this movie is entirely overrated. So this is the one that scares me, but I love this movie to death. It's The Fifth Element. All right. Koho, where are you? There we go. Chris Tucker had the greatest run in the 90s, I tell you. But anyway, this is one of the best popcorn action sci-fi movies ever. This is this is it. This is the one where you love all the characters. Yeah. The action is great. If Chris Tucker annoys you, fine. You don't like Chris Tucker. I love Chris Tucker, and I think his play off of Bruce Willis is absolutely hilarious. It is immensely quotable. Ian Holm is silently one of the funniest dudes in this entire movie. This made me think Mila Jovovich would go on to be like a really, really, really great action franchise holder. And then Resident Evil came out, and I was like, oh, well, damn. Last thing she had was Hellboy. Damn. It's just it is the most rewatchable of rewatchable films. It's just everything you want in an action sci-fi popcorn film. It's not the masterpiece that I've heard Ex Machina is. It's just yes, I love this. Go ahead, Plava Laguna, sing your ass off while Mila Jovovich kicks the shit out of some aliens, please. And Chris Tucker, commercial. I love this film. It's so great.
I honestly don't know how Brian feels about this movie, but I'm not a big fan.
Okay,
it's a movie I want. This is a movie I look at it and I see the trailer, I see what's about, and I want to love it because this is such a me movie. When they take like an old concept, like an old sci-fi kind of just idea, and they take it and they turn it into something else, and it never quite gets it. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do like what Spielberg did with the old serials, Indiana Jones, or what Lucas did with the old, with Star Wars, or what Guillermo del Toro does with all the stuff he does. And it never quite gets there. It never elevates beyond that thing. Like I love the look of it. I just love the idea of it, but it just never connects with me. And when Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets came out, I was like, maybe he got it. He's had like 20 years. Maybe he's got there. And no, he did not. He did not. This is so much better than that one. But yeah, I want this to be a great movie, and it's just not for me. Everybody else on Fifth Element.
I've never been able to get into this one either, really. Like, I think it's just like a bit over stylized for me. Like, I feel like that's how Luc Besson's movies are fairly often. It's just like hyperactive. There's a lot going on. I get a little bit exhausted of like the world, even though it is like very imaginatively designed, and the characters are all larger than life. It's just like a lot. So it's not bad. It's just not something that I could watch like every day.
I feel like this might count as self-harm, but I really like Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I like this movie a lot too. I like all the Luc Besson stuff. Like, I love Lucy. I've seen Lucy 8 times. It's stupid.
Weird movie.
I know he's garbage, but it's delicious garbage. I love The Fifth Element. Bruce Willis, maybe at his hottest, honestly. That's what I have to say. With the blonde hair and the taxi man, the future taxi man. It's great.
Who's hotter, him or Gary Oldman in this film?
Oh, probably Chris Tucker. Hey, this is the third Chris Tucker movie you have.
Greatest run in the 90s, I'm telling you.
All right. But you didn't go yet? Sorry.
I haven't seen it, but I like Valerian. It's fun. It's not good, but it's fun.
Is it?
Yeah.
Jake, what's your 53?
That's Ethan Hawke.
At 53, I have a movie that might be the least divisive movie of all time, I hope. Ponyo. Miyazaki's Ponyo. Ponyo. It's I feel like a lot of people consider this minor Miyazaki or whatever, or it seems to get buried in his amazing filmography. But this is just the one that sparks joy for me. When I feel sick, I'll have soup and put on Ponyo. It's just it's so innocent and beautiful, and it's just these two little kids just getting along, and the animation is so stunning. Yeah, I mean, Spirited Away is one that I also considered. I had a Miyazaki spot, but personally, this is the one that's just like a delicious comfort food for me.
This was the first Ghibli movie I saw because this was the first one my kids discovered. So this is a movie I watched a lot at a certain point in my life. It's not bad. Like, I'm not the biggest Ghibli guy in the world, and I'm not the guy to get asked opinions on because I hear like a lot of people say, and this isn't me talking, Jake. This is just what I've read. This is like one of the lower tier ones. But like the story's fun. My biggest problem, this movie suffers from it a lot with Miyazaki animation in general, is how nothing ever has a definitive shape. Like how things are just constantly like different. And some people might like that. I'm not a fan of that animation style. But I like it because it does have a plot. It has good characters, unlike, like My Neighbor Totoro, which is kind of the same thing. Like you said, like it's a comfort movie, but this movie just has something, actually a plot and something happening and something going on and a point. So I like it a little better. But like I said, personally, it has a sentimental spot for me because my kids love it so much. It's still their favorite. We've watched, like, we've gone through almost all the Ghibli movies now because they've been on HBO Max, but this is still their favorite. So like I said, I'm a little biased, but everybody else on Ponyo.
I haven't seen it. Probably wouldn't like it.
This is one of only like 2 or 3 Miyazakis that I haven't seen yet. I did watch, I did go through a lot of them last year as well, on when they were on HBO Max, and obviously Kiki's was on my list earlier. But yeah, I just missed this one. But I have a friend who it's like their favorite, Miyazaki movie. So I do need to watch it. I'm sure I would like it. There hasn't been one that I haven't liked thus far.
Keep it moving. I don't really watch Ghibli films that much.
All right, Scott, number 52.
Put it in IG, Christian. My number 52 is the Billy Wilder classic "Witness for the Prosecution." Yeah, this is this is a banger. This is I talked about with like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with like 12 Angry Men. Like, I guess Cuckoo's Nest doesn't quite qualify, but this is like in that category of like most accessible classic movies. I feel like you could put this on today and it is as entertaining as any contemporary film. The just dramatic fire in this movie that is adapted from Agatha Christie's play is just there from beginning to end. Charles Lawton is just giving an all-time performance in this movie, like as the grouchy, like kind of like effeminate in a way, like attorney, Sir Wilfrid, who doesn't really want to take on this murder case, but then kind of gets wrapped up in it. Tyrone Power is great as like the guy who is set up as the patsy. He's like the perfect defendant in a way, from the very beginning. And then you have Marlene Dietrich as his wife, who is like the perfect sort of steely counterpoint to that. And it's just an electric courtroom drama. Like it shows the best of what courtroom dramas can do when they just have like that electricity, the fireworks that come from just like great dialogue, and that confrontation between two people. I coach, I think I've mentioned this before, but I coach a mock trial team over at Wake Forest, close to where I live in North Carolina. I coach their mock trial teams, and I will show them the scene where he crosses the old lady who is like deaf, who can't hear really well, and the way that he like uses that in his cross is like so clever. And I'll show them that scene as like a way to do a good cross examination. It has like an amazing twist ending, which I won't say anything about because probably somebody here hasn't seen it. But like it's so great that that they even have like a disclaimer at the end, like of the movie on the screen, like, do not tell your friends and neighbors about the ending to Witness for the Prosecution. Like, and 70 years later, whatever, like there's still, the twist has remained hidden for a lot of people. But even after the twist, it's still a great movie to go back and watch and see how they did it all, which I think is the sign of a great plot twist. And it's just a thoroughly entertaining movie made by a master filmmaker. I mean, look, I am kind of in the Zach Ford camp of like, hey, there are other classic directors than Billy Wilder, but there's no denying that he made some of the greatest classic films. And this is one, obviously, for me personally, like this was like one of the first classic films that I discovered. I like taped it off of Turner Classic Movies. I watched it like all the time on DVD. So this is one that has been one of my favorites for as long as any movie on this list. And I'm happy to say that even after my most recent watch, like a few months back, like it's still one of my favorites.
Yeah, definitely. I harken back to what you're saying at the beginning there. That's what I love about Billy Wilder is the guy's basically making movies that belong in the 70s or 80s back in the 50s. Like his movies have such like a modern sensibility. This movie definitely does. And just the way it weaves in and out of like drama and humor and just balances all that. It's really solid. I did rewatch it a couple times. It's not my like top 3 for Wilder, but I definitely respect it as what it does. And again, I don't know how much is him and how much I have no knowledge of like the original Agatha Christie story, so I don't know how much like credit he gets for the story or whatever happens in it. But it's a really solid film, and that ending's great. Everybody else on Witness with Prosecution.
I mean, you didn't pick the best Billy Wilder film, The Apartment, but this is pretty good. I don't know why I'm saying that. I actually haven't seen it. I really want to see it. I feel like I really love it. I've had a lot of people recommend it to me, but nice that you picked Wilder.
I'm over here reacting to the Knicks game, so yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think I love The Law as much as you, Scott. I don't know. I think I disagree with The Law.
That I do what I do. So.
No, yeah, I gotta see this one. Billy Wilder, he makes good movies. So, yeah.
All right, Spence, your number 52.
The coldest take in this community. Billy Wilder is a good director. My 52. I think Rue's seen it. Koho, don't listen to what I'm about to say. My 52 is About Time.
And I had this earlier. Yeah.
This. I forgot who was making fun of me earlier in the chat. I was saying perfect movie. This is a perfect movie. I think this is an incredible example of a film that on paper should not work. It's sort of creepy, the timeline is weird, and it's super sappy. But it's fucking great. I think there's a tendency for a lot of great films, we tend to look for pessimism. And like, oh, it tells like a real gritty story about how bad humanity really is now and how we need to be better people. And this is just like a counterexample of that. How no matter how shitty someone's life could be and a lot of the shit that they go through, you could just be a better person or see the joy in life. I think this does that. And you give this character immense cosmic power, and you have him just focus on not just changing the world, but about making himself happy. And even at the end of it all, realizing that it's not all about changing the world, about changing your perception of the world. And Rachel McAdams is a queen. Seeing their romance develop is incredible, but also the relationship with the father is heartbreaking. As someone whose dad is still alive, it's not going to hit me quite as hard yet, but I have a lot of friends who've lost their parents, and just that final scene breaks them. So I'm not looking forward to whenever that breaks me. But there's so much joy and beauty in here that it's hard not to just fall in love with every time you watch it.
And I also had this, I think, in like my 80s. Yeah, I mean, the movie has a giant heart. Like, Richard Curtis speaks to that romantic in me, at least. I always think about, too, like with Rachel McAdams. First of all, it's the classic thing where they like give her like bangs and glasses and like kind of basic clothes, and they try to make her look like basic or whatever, and like you're like, it's Rachel McAdams, come on. Like I just think about that moment, right? Because they have their first meeting and they're like in the dark the whole time in that restaurant, and he can't actually see her, but like they clearly have a connection or whatever, and then they walk outside and it's like, oh, he's gonna see her for the first time, and then like Rachel McAdams walks out. Just imagine how you would feel in that moment if like that was the person that you just had the connection with. It would just be like the best, like, hell yeah moment ever. But anyway, the movie's great. And yeah, like if it were just the romance, it would be good. But like adding the family stuff in there is what takes it to the next level, because it's not just even just him and the dad, it's all of the family members, right? Like the way that they portray like his sister Kit Kat, and who's like kind of all over the place, and Uncle Desmond, right, who is like he's slower than everyone else. But there's like so much there's so much of a temptation to just like use them for cheap jokes, and the movie goes in the complete opposite direction, and they're just like such lovely characters. Like the movie has again such affection and love for all of these characters, and so we do too. um and it's just such a nice warm hug of a movie. I heard people talk about it for a long time as being great, and, like, I saw I always knew about, like, the reviews from when it came out, which are just, like, very middling. After watching it, I have no idea what movie those people were watching because this is just, an absolute delight. Like, I can't imagine this is one of the few movies in this community that I feel like everyone who has watched this movie in the community loves it. Like, I don't think there's any haters out there for it. It's that good.
I will say, like, one more thing before I go to Kirk. I think maybe my favorite part about this film is Margot Robbie, and not just her in it, but her existence in the story of how she's there to sort of show him the loops of just like how time travel first really works, and how you can't always change people's perception. And at the end of just like when she comes back and really offers herself to him, like, hey, we could do this, and that makes him realize how much he loved Rachel McAdams, of like this woman who I pined for and spent so much time trying to conquer, really. When she's finally there, he's like, no, I have found true love, which is just beautiful. I fucking love it.
Yeah, this might surprise some people, but I love this movie. This movie is so good. Again, like Scott, like it's something I heard people talk about, like hype up forever. And, Kathy and I always have trouble finding movies that we both sit down and want to watch together. So I was like, oh, let's watch this one. I think it's on Netflix. Let's watch this one. And, you'll probably like it. And who knows how I feel about it. But we both loved it. For us both feel the same amount of positivity towards the movie is incredibly rare. That's a magic trick. And that's what this movie pulls off. The characters in this movie, the relationship it's like a rom-com relationship. It's still real. The characters feel real. You care about them. They're just so charming together, and you love their relationship so see together. The family, I think that's like a hallmark of Richard Curtis movies. Even like there are movies of his I really don't like. There's always like such a focus and such a love for the supporting characters, and the supporting characters in this movie are so fantastic. I'm sorry, it looks like something bad happened with the Knicks, but this. Like the family, like you said about like how the sister's kind of a screw up and the uncle has some problems. They're kind of a broken family, but they're just like they found their place in the world together, and that's so beautiful. Like you just want to be a part of that family. You just want that so much. And Bill Nighy is just amazing in this. I love him so much, just like that dad. Like you see the kind of person he is at the beginning, and you realize as you go through the movie, like the perspective that time travel has given him on life, and it's kind of turned him in that person, and you see his son becoming that, and that relationship is just so beautiful. And the friends, Tom Hollander is so good at this. I love him so much.
Oh yeah.
And just that scene at the end, I said this in my letterbox review, when he makes that over this back shot in the garbage can, and he has like that one moment of victory, is so great, so satisfying. Everything about this movie is great. I love, like I said, I'm not a Richard Curtis guy. I'm not a rom-com guy, but this movie grabs me. I love it so much. Rue and Jake, you did not have this on your list. Tell me why.
So About Time hurts me as much as the Knicks taking it into overtime on the last minute 3 after Jaylen Brown hit from the low. Oh gosh. I've seen this movie once and it left a huge impression on me. It is, I just remember how much I connected with that film and how beautiful and painful and great the movie is. I have to rewatch it again, just because I remember loving it when I saw it. Here.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I had to. I haven't seen this one. I had to tune out a little bit so that I wouldn't spoil this because I do want to see it. I've heard so. Once you started being so positive on it, I was like, I don't want to.
All right. Okay, that takes us to Rue's number 52.
All right, we're heading back to one of my favorite franchises ever, and that is Ocean's 13. For those who didn't like Ocean's 12, this is a back to form, back to what you loved about the original movie. Just a great heist film, a great ensemble film. I think so many more of the characters get a lot more to do overall, and that's hard with such a stacked cast. But it's just another great fun ride, and it also boils down to Al Pacino does an amazing job being the antagonist in this film, and every little trick and twist and turn that they take you along for is something you just love to watch, and you love to root for them. Especially, I love Elliot Gould's character. I just the fact that you want to root him on and bring him back as the heart of the film is really fun. And it's just, again, Oceans is one of my favorites, and it's just a beautiful thing to watch unfold. And I thoroughly enjoy it.
This was another one, Rue. I wanted to love it. I wanted to. Like I said, the first one's grown on me. I didn't like the second one. This one, it's got Al Pacino in it. You said to me, hey, I got this like slick crime heist movie and Brad Pitt's in it. I should be on board. You had Al Pacino, tailor-made for me. But this one just didn't do it. I don't know what it was. I think it was the stakes are so low. It's like, from what I can tell, Elliot Gould has a fainting spell. So all of a sudden, everybody's like furious and they want to get revenge. So the revenge is to stop Al Pacino from winning an award. Like my other problem is too, like so much of this was like inelegant. Like the first two movies, at least, like it's kind of slick everything they do. This one's like, oh, how are we going to solve the earthquake? We're going to cause an earthquake, and then like just at the end when they steal the thing and they just suck it right out, and you don't even know like usually in the movies like it's like, oh, here's like how everything. Just know they just steal the whole thing. And the guy from the French dude comes in from the second movie, and like that movie he was like all cool and doing like all more shorts. This time he just pulls a gun. He just has a gun, and it just seemed like. And there's just so many like what I hate about this franchise. Just so many in jokes and so inside baseball. It's like, oh hey, look, it's cool because it's George Clooney, and I wasn't a fan of it. I wanted to love it. I wanted to be great, and I just didn't think it was. Everybody else on Ocean's 13.
Yeah, it sucks that Tess isn't in this one. Like, I feel like if you couldn't get Julia Roberts back for another Ocean's movie, you probably just shouldn't do it. She's pretty important to the chemistry, I think. It's just kind of trying to replay the first Ocean's movie, in my opinion. I don't think it's offensive. It's just my least favorite Ocean's movie.
It's my second favorite Ocean's film. I think it's a lot of fun. I need to re-binge the whole series because I don't have like super clear opinions about them. But when I watched it like a year and a half ago, I really liked it.
Yeah, I think it's my second favorite as well, but the only one I really watch all that much is the first one. So, I do remember liking it, but it's been a long time, and it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't have the rewatch value in the same way that the first one does for me because I have watched that one quite a few times.
All right, Jake, what is your number 52?
At 52, I have Blowout. Okay, yeah, I love Brian De Palma movies, and I love Brian De Palma movies that are made in the Brian De Palma genre of movie. That's like this weird kind of salacious thriller thing, sexual thriller. And to me, the thing that I always enjoy more about Brian De Palma, I enjoy his technician side more than I enjoy his pervert side. And I would say this movie airs so much closer to the technician side of De Palma's brain, to the point where they're literally putting sound and image together and basically showing you how a film is made in the middle of this movie. So yeah, I just love this thing. It's very meta for the time too. The fact that they were lampooning slashers in the opening with the tracking shot in 1981, only like a year after Friday the 13th Part 1 comes out, they're already making fun of it. It must have been so fucking crazy hip at the time. And blow it.
Yeah, this is a movie I've been wanting to watch for a long time. Finally got to watch it for the show. I really liked it. This is De Palma at like his most Hitchcocky, and it's just such a great looking movie. Like so many cool shots, like that shot where when he realizes all the tapes are erased, they're doing that 360 around the room, and like just him, you keep getting like his reaction. That fireworks at the end, so many cool, like those tracky shots. So many cool looks. I like the story. Like I like the. I'll say gimmick, but I don't mean it like in a bad way, but just like that idea of using sound to put together like the crime, like using the clues of sound and developing that, like how he makes that into like a movie, and just that technical aspect I thought was really cool. Only downsides for this movie for me, I thought the score was a little wonky. There was at certain parts like the score didn't like fit what was happening, and the choice at the end really left me with a bad taste in my mouth. From a story standpoint, I won't ruin it for everybody. From a story standpoint, it was interesting, but from a character standpoint, I was like, oh, that's kind of gross. So that was my biggest issue with it. But otherwise, I really liked it. I think Travolta's great in it. Nancy Allen is doing like that kind of like old style, like 40s or 50s, like Hitchcock blonde kind of character, and it actually works. Like it took me a while to get like the voice and the accent she was doing. It took me a second to get into, but I think the character works. So yeah, John Lithgow's kind of terrifying. Really good pick, solid movie. I'm glad you gave me the chance to watch it. Everybody else on Blowout.
It's a shame. It's a shame Nancy Allen didn't become a bigger deal, because like in this and Dressed to Kill, like she's fantastic in both of the movies. But I think this movie's fantastic. If I had seen it more than once, it probably would possibly be in my top 100, because I love De Palma too. And I agree that I do like this kind of his Hitchcock pastiche more than I like The Body Double, for example, like, because that's definitely where he verges on the sleazy side. Although I still think the movie is really well made. But the ending, like all the fireworks and in front of the American flag, all that stuff is amazing. And like when a character in a De Palma movie enters a train station, some awesome stuff is about to happen, because multiple movies in which he shoots great train station scenes. And also I just love that Dennis Franz is in like all of his early like 80s movie, like Hitchcockian movies, and he's always just like a complete sleazeball like in all of them.
He's
like
perfect.
It's perfect casting, honestly, for Dennis Franz.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blowout is awesome. People should watch it for sure.
Respect, you guys seen this? Nope. Okay, then that takes us to Scott's number 51.
All right, closing it out for me, my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film, Boogie Nights. One of the most well-paced movies ever. Like, this is a 2.5-hour movie, and it feels like it's over in like 10 minutes. Like, it's just you just get sucked into this world immediately, and that's what he does so well in the movie. Like, ridiculous, as everyone says, ridiculous that he made this at age 27, a movie that feels just like so unbelievably vibrant and alive, and like you're just right there in the world from the very beginning. It's a great sort of like A Star Is Born style story, right, of Eddie / Dirk, who ascends to fame in the porn industry, and then spirals into depression and drugs and all the type of stuff that we see. But I think what makes the movie so great, despite the familiarity of certain story elements, maybe is, I mean, number one, again, Anderson as a stylist, like the way that he creates the whole world, the editing and everything, the needle drops, all of that is just like perfectly pitched. And also, though, all supporting story, like all the other characters are given like their own little narratives, like, and they're all really well fleshed out. You have Don Cheadle as like the guy who wants to open the car dealership or whatever. I think is it the car dealership, or is it like a stereo store? It's one of them. I always mix it up. Yeah, a stereo store. But Philip Seymour Hoffman is like the boom mic operator who's like in love with Dirk Diggler. You have William H. Macy as the guy whose wife is just like constantly sleeping with other men right in front of him. And it has like, it has very funny moments. It's a very funny movie too, but it's not afraid to go from funny to dark like that. Like the William H. Macy storyline, is a great example of like in the drop of a hat, like it goes from, absurd to, oh wow, that just escalated really quickly. I think it kind of just shows again in the same moment, like the appeal of Hollywood and the dark side, all in, sometimes in the same scene. And the like thrillerish stuff that happens in the back half of the movie, like, is so tense. Like that whole scene in Alfred Molina's house, with him as the drug dealer and playing Jesse's girl. Like, I can never listen to Jesse's Girl the same way again after watching Boogie Nights, because the song takes on a whole new vibe after you've seen how sort of scary it is in the context of this scene and how unpredictable that character is, and the danger that all the characters find themselves in. It's an amazingly confident, vibrant, alive movie for a 27-year-old filmmaker. For any filmmaker, let alone a 27-year-old filmmaker. I still don't think he's topped it. Although, I mean, like, I don't think he's made a bad film either. Like, he's still one of our best working. But I don't know. This is the one that just, for me, it has the most vibes of all of his movies, and that's what I connect with.
No, I definitely agree with you. This is still his favorite of mine. I don't think he's done. I mean, he's hit or miss for me. There's stuff he's done I really don't like. Most of it I enjoy, but nothing to the level of this. The tone of this movie is so perfect. I love all the characters, just their sincerity. Like the movie shows you how vapid everything is and how kind of like just fleeting. But all these characters are so sincere in what they're doing. Like Don Cheadle, I love Don Cheadle's character in this so much. Like, he's just so desperate to get that stereo store, and he's like, it's such a reality to him. And then just like when the two of them are like trying to get their music career go off the ground, and like Burt Reynolds is just his passion.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention him.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds is so good. Like just desire he has, like, be an actual filmmaker, and he thinks like this is like real art. And it's the world. It just creates such an interesting world to exist in for a little bit. It's almost like a Scorsese or a Tarantino, where they create that crime world. Totally. It's like, it's not a world that you would want to exist in real life, but it's great to just get that keyhole peek into it, like get to watch it for a little bit. This is great. I really like this movie. Everybody else on Boogie Nights?
I think that Mark Wahlberg in this movie kind of has that January Jones effect, where it's like, they're just like so like January Jones in Mad Men, where a lot of people thought that she was very wooden, but it perfectly suits the character that she's playing, which is like a broken Stepford wife. And I think Mark Wahlberg has the same thing in this, where like, I don't think Mark Wahlberg knows how he's being used in this movie always to the movie's benefit. I think he is playing a dumber character than he knows he's playing. And that's what really works about it, though. It's his best performance to date. Like, I like Mark Wahlberg as an actor.
This is one of the biggest blind spots of my movie watching. I have not seen this film.
As the resident biggest PTA fan here, I need to rewatch it. I didn't love it the first time. Probably like it more this time. PTA is still a hack, though.
All right, Spence.
Let's not explore that any further.
What is your number 51?
My 51. The movie only slightly better than Me Before You, according to Jack Pinchuk. Moonlight. This is...
Oh, wow, no one had it.
Yeah, this is incredible. Maybe one of the best films. Actually, I think I did argue like this is the best film of the 2010s. Best versus favorite is obviously Why We're Here, because I'm Not Andrew Barr is a little bit lower than other films I have above it that also came out the same decade. But this is just an incredible piece of art. I will always connect things to my queer identity on the show because it gets me. I feel like I can explain things better. This is just like a beautiful, beautiful film, telling a story that I don't think I would ever find myself in, and as a story that I didn't think I would ever be told on film. And it's just beautiful. I think Barry Jenkins is one of the most promising filmmakers working today, because he's still relatively new, even though he's only made like 3 movies, I think. And just this is such an incredible piece of art. I feel like times we can use film as just like a film as a medium and that's it. But this is truly art. Everything's comes together to tell both like a unique and worldly story. It has one. It's one of my favorite structured stories ever as well, because all three of the actors are very different people. They don't look very similar at all, but you can still tell it's one like unique whole person. And they each bring something different to it. And again, I'll shout out my fucking man, Nicholas Britell, creating one of the best scores of the decade. I love this film to pieces. Out of every rewatch, it gets better and better and better. I don't get how someone can't like this movie.
No, this is a really good movie. I think it deserves its Oscar win. What's beautiful about this movie to me is I think it's about a very specific person and a very specific experience. But I also think there's a universality to that story that I think it's very relatable, no matter who you are. I find myself, especially the older version, and I think that's the best performance in the movies. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who plays the adult version,
Trevante Rhodes.
Yeah, I think he should have been best supporting actor. I think he is amazing in what he does with that character, where he takes that after the first two acts and where he's at and what he is and it's just such an amazing performance. And I connected with that performance, so especially the scenes with his mother and everything and dealing with that. And I think that's the best stories. I think where it represents a very specific person, but also it's something that it's relatable like to anybody. And I think that's what this movie is. I think that's so much of its appeal. The rest of the cast is great too. The two younger versions also fantastic. Mahershala Ali obviously very good. Yeah, up and down, just a really, really great movie, great cast. The score is fantastic. It looks great. It's shot great. Yeah, everybody else on Moonlight.
This movie is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Jarrell Jerome and Janelle Monáe are two actors and actresses who don't get much love in this film, but they are both. After you've seen Jarrell Jerome and When They See Us, you understand how good he actually is. But Janelle Monáe doesn't get that much love in the small role she gets alongside Mahershala. Spence talked about their queer identity. The fact that they did this with probably a demographic that has the most complicated and aggressive relationship to homosexuality and Black men, to allow a Black man to go through that is also something that just makes it that much more beautiful and haunting at the same time. It's something I never expected to see in my lifetime, but I think is extremely important for multiple communities. And it's just, I think a must watch for just about everybody.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, this is one of those movies, though, that for me just falls into like the best, must see, essential. Yes, absolutely. Favorite. I think I said it before when Spence talked about it. Beale Street. I think if Beale Street Could Talk is more personally for me more my favorite than Moonlight is. But like I'm not going to sit here and rag on them. Like it's Moonlight. Like there's really not much bad you can say about the quality of the filmmaking. Again, I agree with Kirk that I do think it has a universality about it. And again, kind of like I was saying with Dope, I love that it like opens up this world that I would otherwise not super be familiar with. But there's just maybe like a slight emotional distance there because of that, which keeps it from being at the top of my favorites list. But it's an impeccable film. And yeah, Barry Jenkins has already in just 3 movies, like his style is so recognizable. Like, when you're watching a Barry Jenkins movie.
Yeah, I love that this movie is like I think this movie's a masterpiece and it's an icon. Like this movie's like an icon now. Like when you even first saw Mahershala Ali in that role, you were just like, "Yep, this is an iconic role." Like just instantly, and you never forget about it. He's only in the start of the movie, and like you never forget about him in that movie. It's just like, yeah, it's fantastic. I'm glad someone included on the list. I was expecting at least 2 people. So I was like, someone will.
3 great films in a Lion King prequel, iconic director.
All right, Rue, what is your number 51?
This is the one I made sure to watch again before coming up. And it was a yikes from earlier from a previous episode. It's Arrival. This movie is just amazing. I'll start off by saying I looked up the Oscar nominations for Best Actress, and that that was a stacked year, but it still made me sad that Amy Adams was not nominated. I think she is just breathtaking in this film. What it's hard to explain, but it's a sci-fi movie coming in, but as you're watching it, it does not feel like a sci-fi movie. It feels grounded and real, and you kind of forget how much of a sci-fi film it is. It is meticulous as hell, and it takes its time, but it doesn't feel slow because it makes it feel like this was like you're waiting day by day by day. The feeling you would have in real life, waiting for the news to tell you what's going on. If something like that happened, that kind of like excitement or nervousness, your heart pounds as meticulous and slow as it goes. And because it's so grounded and it talks about things that are really not talked about in films, how important language is, and how important, science a little bit more, but just the how much that's a part of foundations of civilizations. And then it does so well in making you not realize that you're also in a time travel film until it gets to a certain point and you're like, oh shit, that was okay. And the pieces start clicking together about what the aliens are kind of there for, but you're still trying to figure out the total picture. And the layers of how much of a sci-fi film this actually is, it tricks you into thinking it's not one. And it becomes so real. I heard the comparison, which weirdly connects, is that it's kind of like Memento in a way, because you're looking at, it's like the daughter's name is Hannah. It's a palindrome. Time is circular. It's the same forward and backward, and everything is meeting at the middle. I just think it's an amazing film, and the fact that like Forrest Whitaker is kind of just a side note in this shows how great this film is. Because he's there and he's great, but everybody's great. And I'll say the ending with Zima and Amy Adams, when you're going through how she talks to him and calls him, is just one of the most like fist pumpy films I've ever had watching a movie. Just like, hell fucking yes. It's so good and so beautiful. I love this film.
And I had it also, I think number 80 maybe. Yeah, it's my favorite Villeneuve film, for starters. I think I agree with Rue that like the reason it feels so different from sci-fi movies is because so many sci-fi movies are like man versus alien, right? And this is like, no, we're actually trying to understand the aliens. We're trying to understand the other. It is, on a more general level, it is a movie about like connecting with the other, understanding the other. And not to get too political, but like a lot of people talk about how this movie came out like right after Trump got elected, and it was just like a very comforting movie because it's about in a way like the whole world coming together, like uniting to try to solve this problem, not with violence or hate, but with like, hey, like open-heartedness, understanding, kindness. Like we want to understand these creatures. I think that's a beautiful sentiment. And speaking of beautiful, like the very ending of the movie, the monologue that Amy Adams has, like the voiceover with that Max Richter piece, the On the Nature of Daylight piece of music, like, oh man, if that doesn't get you emotional, like I don't know what you're like watching movies for, because it's just it is a true beautiful movie moment, and it's a weirdly comforting film overall. But I think Villeneuve does a great job of finding the human heart at the center of this whole high sci-fi story. So it's an amazing film.
This is also on my list. This sort of blew me away the first time I saw it. It was the first time I considered getting into film journalism, even because I wrote this big long review about how incredible it is, and even today I still think it could have revolutionized storytelling in film. I don't think it's quite had that effect, but I think it still created one of. I think sci-fi and horror. Well, this isn't quite a horror film; it sort of goes to it as well. Tend to reflect our modern day anxieties and thoughts about the universe. And I think what Scott said is true. Like where the world was at during this time. how important language is and reaching out and talking to people who you don't quite understand, but working together to find a greater understanding of the universe. And I think that works so incredibly here. The fact that you can make Jeremy Renner a lead and it's still a great film blows me away. I'll agree with Ian in the
Don't talk
chat.
about my man like that. Don't you?
Oh, is the worst. Ian's is right. If you said this was Denis' best film, I wouldn't argue, or I might argue with you, but I would understand. This is a masterpiece.
Yeah, you didn't have this, did you, Jake?
No.
Okay. First of all, the thing I love about this movie is how it's just that tone, and Rue talked about this a little bit, where it's like it's just a very much boots on the ground type of like, what if this actually happened? There's no fanfare, there's no spectacle. It's just like, it's a rain. I think even Lou said something like it's just a rainy Tuesday, and you turn the news on and you see this, and what's that look like in real life? It captures that so well. Like just like a disaster or some world event that you're just sitting around watching. Those scenes where they're in the college and everybody's just looking is just such the reality of how this would work. The other thing I love about is, and you guys all talked about this, the way it explores language and communication and how it works, and just what a minefield it is, and how you get that across. I just love the idea of how they talk about one group is using a game, using backgammon as communication, and how using a game just completely changes the way you communicate as the way they're doing it. You hear it's real quick, but if you listen, the main group, the American group that we're following, will have a conversation and they translate something, and then you hear one of the other countries on the screen kind of translate it the same, but it's a little different, and that changes how they view it. And I just love that detail. And I love that attention to, again, going back to like we said about Blowout, how that explores through sound, the way this uses language as and again, it's like that language is the first weapon drawn in a conflict, and how that's kind of what's going on here. And I just really enjoy that. I to the point where I don't like where it takes the time travel aspect, because to me that takes away from what it was doing with language. I know that's what the language ultimately was about, but I feel like I was so connected to that language storyline that I wish it would have just went full circle with that. But Jake, you were the only. Otherwise, I love this movie. This is my second viewing. Didn't really get it on the first viewing. Got a lot more here, and I'm sure I will more in successive viewings. Jake, you're the only one who didn't have it. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that this movie was a masterpiece until the second time I saw it, which was a few months ago. I saw it in theaters originally. I thought it was really good. And then the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, you could almost peg this as a flaw on the movie, that it only really works the second time in a way, where once you get the emotions of what's going on, it's all the way that it's out of order. It doesn't give you an emotional catharsis. And then when you watch it the second time and you actually know what's happening, it's a better movie the second time, I think. So I don't blame you if you only saw it once and we're like, yeah, it was really good, but No,
I agree. It definitely took me twice.
I agree.
All right. And I think it's built to be that kind of movie. Jake, take us home with your number 51.
I have The Cook, The Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover by Peter Greenaway. So this is a weird ass movie again. It's Michael Gambon basically plays this criminal who he is the thief in the title. There's a cook in his restaurant. The main set is a giant restaurant in Britain, and it's all red inside, and there's 3 separate sets, and the camera keeps panning over between each one, and every time they pass between sets, their costumes change, and it's this whole elaborate stylistic thing. If you haven't seen this, I don't know how to pitch you on this. I guess it's somewhere between A Clockwork Orange and the TV show Hannibal, and if you want to see Michael Gambon as a Tony Soprano-esque gangster who makes people eat dog shit and literally beats them to an inch of their life and pisses on them, it's an intense thing. He's very scary in this movie, very Bond villain, but on crack or something. It's a dark film, but it has Helen Mirren in it as well. She's the wife, and Tim Roth is another character who pops up with this. So yeah, it's a weird movie that's hard to sell people on, but
yeah, it's the cast. I was surprised with stat, just seeing all the people in it. Like you said, Tim Roth, Helen Mirren, Karen Hines in it. It was interesting.
You saw this? Okay, good.
Yeah. I found it. I watched it. It felt like. I mean, to me, it felt like they were trying to do Terry Gilliam, and I wish I feel like if Terry Gilliam would have done this, like he would have done it. It's not a bad movie. It's very weird, and I see what they're going for. My biggest complaint, I feel like it got repetitive. Like it was a scene in the restaurant with Gambone just yelling and screaming and filibustering, and then it would cut to them hooking up, and then it would go back. I feel like this movie probably could have been maybe 30 minutes shorter. I think that would have helped it. And that music, like the singing, that was the other thing that got really repetitive for me. But again, it was interesting to watch. It held my attention. But like I said, I feel like it felt derivative of some other stuff I'd seen before. And I know they were kind of going for like the whole like it was a stage play, like even like the curtain falls at the end. So I don't know if that really helped or hurt it. But it was interesting. Like I said, it was worth a watch. It was weird. But I like weird sometimes. Has anybody else seen this?
Heard of it, but haven't seen it.
This is like the third time I've done this.
Jake, you might need to go down in history as like the worst person to pitch movies on YLS. Holy fuck. That sounds so I like weird movies.
Saw Jake Maringer.
Yeah.
I would rather watch Rubber than whatever this. I knew the title. I thought I'd like it. Not anymore. I don't want to watch it now.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't remember how intense it was until I watched it this time, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I hope I don't offend Kirk here on this one. This is a violent movie.
Rue, I'm assuming you haven't seen this one?
Not at all. Never heard of this in my life.
Imagine if Rue had seen it. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Okay.
Before he's done, that's gonna happen. One of these times.
Yeah. It's easier to talk about it when everyone knows what I'm talking. All
right. Well, that does it for this episode. I got to give out scores. I'll tell you what, guys. Not bad list this time. Nobody really upset me that much. But I think the winner by just a hair this week is Scott. Scott again had some really solid movies. Nebraska follows, Pelham 1, 2, 3, Waterfront, Heat, was Rushy Weeknights. Really hard to overcome. Spence, you were close. You were so close.
I thought Spence had it, honestly.
You almost had it
because I had 9 movies.
No. It was honestly, I would say. I mean, you had your biggest weakness was How to Train Your Dragon 2. I don't think that was your lowest low, and Scott just didn't have anything that went that low. The rest of the list was tight, so you guys were neck and neck. Rue and Jake, your lists weren't bad. They were just Scott and Spence just were really strong this week. And compared to, again, going 3 and 4 is just as hard to figure out as 1 and 2 here. But again, by a hair, I think Rue's number 3. He just had some more solid movies on Mission Impossible, Arrival, Rogue One. And Jake, and also Rue gets 3 because he had a really good succinct description of Babe Pig in the City. He described it exactly the way I thought of it. He hit the nail on the head. Jake, your list wasn't awful. I don't think it's a your list sucks type of list. But you did have Babe, you had Eyes Wide Shut, you had Dazed and Confused, and that no one else went as low as you did this week. But again, overall, not bad. We'll be back next week. We're halfway through. We're going to get in the 40s. Went a little long this time. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk, get angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
Bob, and not expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.